September 21st, 2017. Calls for a meeting to order at 7:30. Mrs. Lucelle, if you could please call the roll.
Thank you. Peter Belo,
Here.
Brian Boyle,
Here.
Stephanie Doobie.
Here.
Kim Farah.
Here.
Donna Green.
Here.
Dan Guy.
Here.
Sue Sherman.
Here.
Gregory Spiro.
Here.
Kelly Ward.
Here.
Also present at the board table, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Roxanne Wilson and Student Representative Brian Lavoy. Thank you.
Okay, can we all rise, please? Ms. Lavoy, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We got a bunch of minutes. We're going to deal with the minutes at the end of the meeting here, and so we don't put these people through the pain of the minutes. Okay, Mr. Lavoy, could you please give us a student rep report?
Sure. So I'll start off by apologizing for not being here last week. I was in the school's production of Arsenic and Old Lace, which went very well. That was up at the high school. That was 2 weekends ago. And then this past weekend, they did the holiday radio show, which is always a big hit. It's a bunch of the music department, a bunch of different ensembles, perform. That was a big hit as well. Most of I think it was the Sunday, December 10th, all of the music ensembles, the guitar orchestra, the band, and the chorus, all from the high school, they had their holiday performance, that long marathon of a day, which went very well. Down in the middle school, most of them have also done a lot of their 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, choir ensemble performances, as well as, the bands and the orchestras and everything like that. This Monday, on the 18th, the spelling bee down at the middle school was held. And then 7th grader Anna Hammer won, sponsored by the Atkinson Lions Club, as always. We're very grateful for them. That went very well. And then the 20th, the 8th graders went to the North Shore Theater and got to see the production of The Christmas Carol, which they do almost every year, which is always a big hit with them. Down at the elementary schools, most of them have participated in their holiday, winter time, holiday break events, a lot of different, celebratory things like that. And then the book fair also recently happened down at the Sandown North, which was a big success, as always, because, as we know, a lot of children love books nowadays, and they're very great. So that went very well. So yeah, thank you. That's about it.
Thank you very much. So before we hit tonight we have 1, 2, 3. I have 5 members of the audience who want to address the board. So I will ask the members of the public to refrain from cheering, clapping, and we hope everyone can. Why? Because I kind of thought there was a lot of character 2 weeks ago, and I thought when people came to the budget committee, I thought they were people who spoke, and everyone professionally did the thing. This is a school board meeting. It's a meeting held in public versus a public hearing. So we respect everyone being here, but this is, again, I'll just ask those members of the public to just respect each other. We are now a few days away for Christmas, so we're going to see if we can maintain a little bit of holiday spirit here, as challenging as it might be tonight. So let's be a little civil, and I'm sure we'll be fine. So first up, if we could have Laurie Hirschenroder. I'm sorry if I destroyed your name.
Hirschenroder, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm kind of used to it. But I call me Mrs. H.
Mrs. H. Oh, that's
Yes.
good. Make it easy for me.
Hi. Laurie Hirschenroder, President of the Timberlane Support Staff Union. It's times like these that remind TSSU members why we organize to speak with a collective voice. Facing the real possibility of positions being eliminated, we have a contract to refer to if and when that time comes. Most importantly, we believe in advocating for excellence in our schools and making sure, as a community, we provide opportunities for the children of the Timberlane Regional School District. As a reminder, over 80% of the membership of the TSSU live in one of the 4 towns you represent. We work here, we live here, we have raised our children here, and we pay taxes here. We also pay attention to the decisions made here. We pay attention to the comments made at district meetings and on social media. I'd like to be clear about the importance of the support we provide. The goal of a paraeducator is to ensure students' access to the general curriculum and safety and well-being in the school setting. Support may be with academics, communication, personal care, behavior, and emotional regulation, or sensory integration. Paraeducators include educational assistants, library assistants, and special education paraeducators who are classified as a SPED assistant, tutor, tutor one-on-one, tutor ASD, tutor ED, licensed nursing assistants, or one-on-one assistant teachers. The special education paraeducator's primary responsibility is to support identified students in receiving a free and appropriate education based on their individual education program. The educational assistant paraeducator's primary responsibility is to support all students as needed. Daily, you will see paraeducators assisting students individually and in group settings. You will see paraeducators providing coverage for classrooms when teachers are at meetings or absent. You will see paraeducators on duty schedules such as as arrival, recess, lunch, and dismissal. The safety of all students is an incredible responsibility given to all staff of every school. Our district should strive to attract the best employees we can. As I have stated previously, the average pay of $17,000 for a Timberlane paraeducator is lower than many expected. We have many excellent applicants who have not accepted positions because of the pay. We have made great strides in our 3 contract negotiations, but we have more work to do to retain and attract exceptional personnel. As the future of our district sits in your hands, please continue to strive for excellence with a reasonable budget and default budget. Keep our district moving in the right direction. Personally, I cannot imagine losing any of the staff I currently work with, nor can I imagine not adding staff considering the needs of the students on the rise, which I have witnessed firsthand. You have seen many passionate Timberlane staff the past few weeks filling rooms. We know the importance of what is happening around us. We are invested in our students. You will continue to see us at public hearing on Thursday, January 11th, 7 p.m. at the PAC, and at deliberative session on Thursday, February 8th at 7 p.m. at the high school. We are more than a number on a piece of paper. We are more than the warm bodies, as we have again been referred to. We are dedicated professionals who are public school proud, who will not be shamed for fighting for our students. We will stand up for our students. We will stand up for our colleagues. We will stand up for excellence. We will stand up for our community's future. Please do the right thing as you continue your budget work. Please support public education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Toth?
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Toth, Vice President of the Timberlane Teachers Association. Excuse me. As a Sandown taxpayer and a Timberlane faculty member, I can appreciate the urgency to prepare a budget that considers the interests of all stakeholders. However, the budget proposed by the Budget Committee is not level funded, as it cannot continue to fund current levels of staffing, programming, or supplies. Because there are mandated increases in costs to provide the same levels of services year to year, the proposed $71.76 million will cause a reduction in staff, programs, or other areas of the district budget. As a member of the Timberlane community, I want to state that any reduction in these areas would cause a significant impact to the caliber of education and quality of educational opportunities at Timberlane. I cannot think of any staff member at my school who is superfluous to the success of our students. The loss of any staff member, whether it be administrator, instructional, or support staff, will have a negative impact on how we ensure that students are successful. In order to maintain current levels of services to students, the district budget would need to be closer to $73.8 million, this year's budget number with the addition of those mandated increases. It is important to ensure that there is sufficient surplus of money not spent from the approved budget. Budgets are generated approximately 18 months in advance. No doubt, there will be unanticipated expenses, emergency repairs, or decisions made at the state or federal level which may have an impact on the budget. The budget must be prepared to handle these unexpected costs. When there is a surplus in a given year, the school board determines what to do with this money. The history in Timberlane is that most of this money is returned to the taxpayers to help offset property taxes. For example, at an August 2017 school board meeting, the surplus for the 2016-17 school year was estimated to be approximately $1.8 million. At that time, the school board voted to put $175,000 of that money in the fund balance retention fund, for which the law prescribes limited uses. The rest was applied to the tax rate. In the end, last year's surplus was in excess of $2 million, significantly increasing the amount of money that was applied to the tax rate. Further, we respectfully submit that a responsible default budget should be prepared according to the law. RSA 40:13-9B provides a clear formula which should be used to build such a budget, not be used as a tool with which to slash the budget. My voice here tonight represents the members of our collective bargaining agreement. The teachers, guidance counselors, school psychologists, nurses, speech therapists, occupational therapists, behaviorists, physical therapists, reading consultants, and librarians. In that role, we are here to tell you that each of us is a critical piece of the Timberlane educational system. We ask you, as the school board, to develop a considered default budget for our school district that meets the needs of all stakeholders. We are depending on you to make the decisions that are best for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Woodworth.
Thank you, Chairman Boyle, for the opportunity to address this board tonight. I am Don Woodworth of Atkinson, and I'm the principal at Timberlane Regional High School. I, like so many others in this room and around the district, love my job. I believe that educators are critical to the academic, social, civic, creative, emotional, and personal growth of our students, and that through education, we shape the future of our communities and essentially society as a whole. It's an ever more difficult job because our students are growing up in a complicated, contentious world fraught with challenges and difficult choices, and they need our help. It takes the collective contributions of the entire community to equip students with the skills, attitudes, and aptitudes to be successful in such a world. And I believe that the decisions of the board and budget committee are critical to our efforts to best serve our students as the submitted budget and the default budget are prepared for voters to consider. Historically, our district residents value a strong school system. They value a strong academic program, pre-K to grade 12. They value a caring and talented faculty, staff, and administration. And they value the facilities that provide the space and features necessary to support the 21st century learning environment. The district depends on the Budget Committee and the school board to provide the best possible resources for our children and grandchildren. We should all be proud of the accomplishments of our students and of our staff over the last 5 years since Dr. Metzler arrived and brought with him a commitment to achievement, to rigor, and to accountability. And I'm proud of the changes we've made in the past 5 years to keep our district up to speed with the high expectations of the district as conveyed through our school board. And I'm proud of the 3-year effort of our teachers and our administrators in writing and implementing a K-12 competency-based curriculum in keeping with the mandate of the New Hampshire Department of Education. It's been a tremendous task, and it's taken everybody's hard work to get there. We should all be proud of the support we're giving to the students as we strive to prepare them for their next steps in life. These people behind me, around me, are doing a great job. Lately, in public and social media, some of these dedicated and loyal deans, assistant principals, professional staff are being referred to as superfluous. They've been hearing that their programs are in jeopardy, that their job titles could be eliminated. I ask that we refrain from targeting the essence of our district success, our employees, our schools' programs. Please consider who they are, what they've done for us, and what they continue to want to do for us. I ask that you recognize that most of the principals and deans and assistant principals in our district have been teachers in our district, promoted because of their dedication and their talent. We need them more than we've ever needed them. Our academic deans, they're teachers, they're mentors, they're curriculum writers, department chairs, budget developers, disciplinarians, professional development presenters, program implementers, members of the district and school-based committees, evaluators, coaches, summer school and summer program directors. Our deans support teachers when they encounter difficulties with students, with issues of parents, with issues of professional practice, and they're critical to our district's continued success and improvement. Please honor their work. Please, at the end of the day, present the district voters with a default budget that honors education, that provides opportunities for all students, and which allows us to deliver our program of studies. Please do not present a budget to the district that targets its proud employees, the backbone of our district, to arrive at a number that diminishes our ability to maintain the excellence of our school system. Think of value as you consider cost, and consider the cost to our students if we undervalue our teachers, administrators, and paraprofessionals. Thank you.
Thank you. Arthur Green. Arthur Green. Arthur Green.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Arthur Green of Sandown. I wasn't going to discuss this particular topic, but I feel that as the only member of the general public as opposed to an employee of the school district who's making public comment today, I should say that Salem, New Hampshire provides the same kind of education, the same free education, the same support for special needs, the same values, the same aspirations, the same quality of education as Timberlane. They do it delivering stronger academic results. They do it with a staffing model that balances somewhere, if we were on a comparable staffing, we'd be close to 100 fewer staff. And if our per pupil cost in Timberlane were the same as the per pupil cost in Salem, our neighboring town, our budget would be lower by more than $6 million. That's all I'm going to say on that topic. Why I really came here today is that the Budget Committee was presented with information about the projected revenue budget for the 2019 year. And that revenue budget for the state adequacy aid grant shows a figure of $10,300,000. Now, Department of Education publishes a computation of the adequacy aid for the future year. It is a forecast because the final ADM numbers, of course, are not available from until well into next year. But they publish this forecast for school districts to use in preparing their budget. And the grant as calculated, as forecast by Department of Ed, is $9,815,000. So again, what's on the projection that the school district gave BudCom is $10,300,000. The Department of Ed in mid-November published a figure of $9,800,000. That's a $500,000 difference. Now, normally the figure that is published by the district is used at public hearing and then at deliberative to forecast what the tax impact of the proposed budget will be. So I want to bring it to the attention of the school board that if the forecasted tax impact at our deliberative this year is based on an adequacy aid of $10,300,000, what we're doing is we're understating the tax impact by $500,000. We're creating the possibility that when the taxes come out the following November, there's going to be an additional $500,000 that has to be placed on the taxpayer. And I can't see that there's any reason for such a discrepancy when the Department of Ed publishes these numbers. They're on their website for anybody like me to use. So I want to bring this to the attention of the board. I think it's important that this be corrected and that the district use accurate Department of Education numbers in forecasting the tax impact of its budget. You know what, and I'm going to say one other word on that. I see that federal projects is shown as forecast revenue of $1,350,000. I have no information about federal projects, but I have been reading social media from time to time, and there's some indication that the grants, especially Title I grants, are going to be significantly lower. I've heard numbers like $200,000. I don't know. What I'm saying is that I think it's important that if we know these impacts, they have to be built into the revenue forecast and of course, the projected tax impact of the proposed budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Doobie.
Thank you. So, Stephanie Doobie, Danville, New Hampshire. Thank you. So, good evening. I would like to address something that took place last Wednesday night at the Budget Committee meeting. I watched a video that showed several staff members behaving pretty badly.
Excuse me,
Nope,
Chair?
I'm speaking as...
If there's going to be any
I'm not there-
discussion, if there's going to be any discussion about a complaint, which I heard there possibly could be, of any of our personnel, it needs to be done through our policy, and it has not gone through any of our process. So I just want to bring that to your attention. It is not a public matter at this time. It needs to be brought through our process in KEB. So I don't know what she's going to be speaking about, but I have heard rumors that perhaps there's going to be some complaints lodged against some of our staff.
Yeah, thank you for the input, so.
And this is a school board meeting, and she is a member of the board
I'm speaking as an individual.
You're still a member, you can't take that hat off.
during a board meeting. This
This is
this
delegates
could-
and
This
individuals.
could put us in, as a board, in liability.
Still a board member.
I don't want to be threatened.
Okay,
I do not want to come out to threats.
If that's a reference to my statement, it is not a threat. I'm here to advise you in
Thank you.
terms of policy and procedure.
thank you, I appreciate that, thank you. Can you just hang on one second there? I received this policy about 20 minutes ago about another matter, not involving.
Policy is it?
KEB, public complaints about school personnel.
Would you mind
Just,
reading it?
I am going to read it because, sorry. Constructive criticism of the schools is welcome through whatever medium when it is motivated by a sincere desire to improve the quality of the education program and to equip the schools of this district to their task more effectively. The board places trust in its employees and desires to support their actions in such a manner that employees are freed from unnecessary, spiteful, or negative criticism and complaints. Whenever a complaint is made directly to the board as a whole or to a board member as an individual, it shall be referred to the school administration for study and possible solutions. The individual employee involved shall be advised of the nature of the complaint and shall be given every opportunity for explanation, comment, and presentation of the facts as he or she sees them. If it appears necessary, the administration, the person who made the complaint, or the employee involved may request an executive session of the board for the purposes of fuller study and a decision by this body. Generally, all parties involved, including the school administration, shall be asked to attend such a meeting for the purposes of presenting additional facts, making further explanations, and clarifying the issues. Hearsay and rumors shall be discounted, as well as emotional feelings, except those directly related to the fact of the situation. The board shall conduct such meetings in a fair and just manner. The board may request a disinterested third party to act as moderator to help it reach a mutually satisfactory solution.
Do you think that policy refers to the professional action of staff, or do you think it also includes action at public meeting? I would say that refers to the professional action of staff and not to behavior in a public context.
Of course, that is not differentiated in that policy.
No, either way. If there are complaints made against any of the personnel in terms of their doing their job or their assignment, they have the right to have it investigated. This board acts as the appeal or the judge. That's why I'm saying, and from what I'm hearing, there's going to be a complaint lodged. And if that's the case, it needs to go through administration process properly, not to be heard at a public meeting with the board at this time.
In this instance, it has nothing to do with assignment or job, which is the qualification that Dr. Wilson just said.
And how would you know that, since
would you know
this is
that?
supposedly a citizen sitting up there, who isn't, of course?
We all know what this is about.
So it's going to be very hard for us to even act in any kind
We're
of,
supposed to be a jury.
yeah, unbiased. Wow. Let the administration do their job. Thank you.
I believe we're in one of these gray areas right now.
I don't think any of our attorneys would say that.
Well,
I'm happy to take my direction from the chair.
well, I will just tell you, I think you're in a gray area, and
Yeah.
And if need be,
Dr. Wilson a question. If this were not a board member, if a member of the public came up and started to speak about a staff member or an issue, how would that be handled?
Probably Same much the way. same, because I've done it in other situations. They're interrupted, they're asked to come through the administration, because we would know if that had happened or not. And so that's what would have happened, and the same thing if they start talking about a student situation. We stop them and say, you know, this is not the public process, this is not the manner to do that, we need to go through another process. So, this is a way to, as a board, you are here for a number of different
I,
Keeps us in
job
as
roles.
much as it can.
And this could possibly come down to you, if there's any disciplinary action at all, if that is, because we don't even have to have the complaint in order to deal with it.
my brain tells me we should just,
So let me just say, if there doesn't have to be a complaint, has this situation been dealt with?
well, again, you're jumping to a conclusion here, and I don't, quite frankly, I was unaware of this policy until 7:15 on another matter, which is a policy that was adopted in 1983 and revised, and bottom line is a policy. There's a procedure here that I think we're in an area and that it could be applied.
It could. I mean, in my mind, it seems to me that you're inferring that there is going to be a complaint made here publicly against school personnel, that this board should be going into a non-public to hear this. Is that not correct?
No, because it hasn't been dealt with.
It hasn't been
Because it
investigated.
hasn't been dealt with.
It has to be, you have to go through the process. If you heard a complaint from somebody, you would come through us first. You would say, I'm sorry, I can't get into details with you, but you need to go to the administrator, and you would let Dr. Metzler know. And that's what I'm advising to have happen.
That's fine. And I'm, at this point, I'm happy to not read what I have prepared. It wasn't going to, I wasn't going to name any names, but I was just going to give an overall, view of what took place. At this point, what I'll do is I will lodge a formal complaint, and we'll take it that way. Thank you.
That's the process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
All righty. Okay. Let's into the business side of this meeting here. Harvard Model Congress Youth and Government Trips.
Thank you.
I think Cam's gonna run this one.
What made you think that?
He's more than capable, so.
I know. It's really nice to sit up here wearing a different hat. Good evening. It's lovely to see you. I'm the advisor, Ryan Richmond, the advisor for the, I think we're now calling it the government team because we compete at these two conferences. And we're presenting on Harvard Model Congress and Youth in Government. We have done every year in the past. There are, and I know the new procedure is that the superintendent presents trips, but there are 3 asks that require board action. So I'm joined today by Cameron Magner, who you all know, who is president of the Government Club, and Taylor Gilchrist, who is the most senior female in the group, and the vice president you all know as well, Brian Lavoy, who's your student rep. So I know we are behind schedule tonight, so we'll try and be brief. The first ask, of course, is pretty standard, and it's on the dates that the students and I will need in order to attend these conferences. So Harvard Model Congress is February 22nd through the 25th, so it's 2 days before February break and then into February break. And then Youth in Government, there's a Saturday in March 17th, so that won't require any absence from school. But the second part of the conference is April 6th and 7th, so they'll need to miss the Friday, the 6th. And if any of them are, and as you'll see, and if you remember from last spring, several of them served in positions of authority at the conference, were elected to that. So if they're in leadership, they'll have to attend the O'Neill training the evening of the 5th. They won't miss school, but they will be at the hotel for that way. So we'll start with Harvard Model Congress because that is the first one, and Cam is going to reintroduce you to that program.
So Harvard Model Congress is an incredible opportunity that all of us have. We've only been doing it this will be my third year doing it. We've been doing it for 3 years. And each year we have the pleasure of being able to take on a role within a certain position in Congress, where we then adopt the position, political opinion of said person, and act out whatever, or sort of participate in debate that relates to whatever the topic may be for our conference. We're given background guides and are instructed to prepare any notes, any information that we have, and we have to study up on the political opinion of our specific member of Congress in order to be able to debate sufficiently in an attempt to win awards. And in the past couple of years, we only had, I think, 1 award the first year. We had, three the next year, and hopefully that number will continue to rise this year, assuming we get approval. So it's been a real honor being able to go each year into Harvard, which is obviously a really cool experience. We meet with students from all over the country and even some international students as well. So it's a great opportunity to meet with other kids, to get to know their side of things outside of debate.
And the conference, excuse me, is held at the Sheraton in Boston. The conference requires us to stay there. Obviously, I stay there too for safety and security of the students as chaperone. So we've already paid the $99 school fee. The students have all paid their $115 delegate fee. This year, the first year, as Cam mentioned, 5 of us went. Last year, 9 of us went, and you can see the pictures from last year up there and our 3 awardees. This year we have 12 delegates. So I know we were concerned last year with a lot of our students being seniors. I am really excited that a lot of sophomores joined this year. A lot of them are behind us tonight and have joined us. So we're really excited. There's a lot of longevity in this program already established. The second ask I'll talk about right now, and that is about a decision that was made last year. Those of you who were on the board last year, you know, was about the rooming situation. So last year the decision was made that it should be 1 student per bed instead of the typical, 4 students, 2 beds scenario that is for most trips. So we will need the school board to make a decision on that because obviously that has a major impact on the cost of the program for us. You can see from the slide, the left is the room cost, just the room cost for shared beds, which is $39.82.86. If we have to do 1 student, 1 bed, it raises it $2,000 in cost to $59.74.29. So certainly we will need the school board to decide is that recommendation from last year still in place, or are we allowed to go back to the shared bed scenario? It saves us $2,000 in terms of cost. The second program in the spring is Youth in Government, and Taylor will speak briefly about that.
So Youth in Government is a more local program than HMC. It's with students from just in New Hampshire, and we go to Concord for a weekend and we take over the House, the Senate, and the courts. And it's really cool at this one because you get to represent your own views. We submit our bills ahead of time, and so all the legislation that we work on was written by students who are in the program. So it's an experience that we get to try to figure out how our views fit into local policies. I've been 2 years to this program, and it's grown a lot since I've been. The first year there's only 2 girls, and now we have an equal number. So now we have 7 who would like to go, and 7 boys, which is pretty cool. And in this particular program, we've also held a lot of positions of power. We had Cam as Senate President, and we had Jake, who was a top 3 gubernatorial candidate, and a couple senators. So it was just like we had a lot of unique positions in this program, and hopefully we will continue to maintain that aspect.
And having personal relationships with a lot of people who work up at the State House, they've been really interested in a lot of the bills that our students have written and have looked at some of them. And the son of a local rep is in the group as well. So it'll be really interesting for him to be able to sit in his father's seat in the House. So Youth in Government, a lot of the costs are fixed for this one. It's a $200 hotel and program fee per delegate. We stay at the Comfort Inn for 1 night. And if, just as last year, we had a committee chair and Cam was the president of the Senate, they both had to go to the O'Neill training the night before, which I'm at, and the YMCA covers the cost for that night for the student leaders. Of course, standard. I'm first aid and CPR certified. We have 12 students going to Harvard Model Congress, 14 going to Youth in Government. All, of course, have all medical forms, permission forms, and we are all connected. We'll have predetermined places for meeting, and
transportation to and from both events is provided by parents or guardians. In fact, even Concord Youth in Government program doesn't allow students to drive themselves for liability and safety reasons. And we have a relationship with Exeter. The advisors for their group are both female, so I work with them for chaperoning purposes, and they work with us as well, just to ensure that everybody's comfortable as well as taken care of. The third ask, of course, is historic, and we're coming to you for your continued support of the program. And I know Cam, who you'll hear a little bit more from Dr. Wilson about this, but so incredibly proud of him. He has yet again surpassed expectations of any high school senior, and was selected for an incredibly important program and selective program in the U.S. Senate again. So Cam is just going to talk for a moment about the impact that this program has on our students.
So what I wanted to say was the opportunities that not only government clubs provided myself and other students, but also the board in the past has provided us with, have really allowed myself and I hope several other students on the team to really allow their passion for public service to foster and grow. Because I know certainly without it, I don't think I would have been involved in these programs that I have been involved with, and it has been a real pleasure getting to work with everyone and being able to attend these incredible experiences that really mean a lot to me and everybody else with me tonight. And I think that we couldn't do it without your support. We couldn't do it without the support of the boards in the past. And I think that it's important that the sort of further achievement of students is recognized, and that we try and help them pursue all that they can in life, because I personally intend to pursue a political career, and I think that, like I said, without this this club, it wouldn't have happened. That sort of dream would not have happened, and I hope that that's the same case for other students with me tonight. And so once again, I just want to thank you guys very much for those members of the board that were on here last year when we presented last year. Thank you for your support, and I hope that we can count on your continual support tonight. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So you're in here tonight asking a couple of things here?
Right, so I will now go into the money aspect of what we're
Okay.
asking for. Last year, we got $5,350 from the board to be able to pay for both Harvard Model Congress and Youth in Government. Without that money, depending on whether or not we do shared bed scenario or per bed scenario, it would be $873.58 per student for the shared bed scenario, and it would be $924.53 per student with the shared bed scenario. So it is not feasible for us for I think anyone to expect somebody to pay that amount of money for one of these conferences, which is why we are again asking for $5,350 from the board tonight to be able to pay and help cover the costs of both Harvard Model Congress and Youth in Government.
And for clarity's sake, that's in the past what the board has given, and it covers only half. The other half the students raise through fundraising, through corporate donors, and through personal finances. And then the other two asks are about I don't want to say policy, but the bed scenario, and of course,
The dates.
permission to go and miss the dates.
The dates,
Yes.
So we need a motion to accept the dates first. Would that be?
I'll make a motion to accept the days out of school for both the Harvard Model Congress and Youth in Government.
I'll second.
Okay, that's an easy one. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. That's an easy one.
I'd like to make a motion to fund them $6,000
Second?
instead of the $5,350.
Just discussion. Just as this question, so are there other activities, I guess, at the high school. Is there a budget, for example, for school activities?
I think it's 142890, the budget for student activities.
I don't have that with me. All I'll say is that, yes, we have a budget for activities for the whole year for all programs. And we try to, equally provide the best we can for all programs. So we can't just throw it all towards one. It would put us in a situation where we wouldn't be able to fund much of what the others do. We've been trying to bolster that number to be able to handle it so we don't have to come to the board for things like this, but we can't. We weren't successful in moving that budget number up last year. So we're still in the same boat. We have to come back for certain things that are more expensive to get help. So
Okay.
that's why they're in this situation.
Okay, thank you. I guess that's my question. I was just wondering, because apparently I know that over the years, I guess you mentioned that these students come up with half, and whether it's athletic events, and I was just curious.
We sometimes have to, have more contributions from individuals to do things when we travel, especially, and if there's overnight, things like that. But we also want to encourage the programs to be successful, have enough numbers, be able to follow through on the commitment that they make. We send a group that has to pay a lot of money. We cut down the people that are able to actually make the trip, and so we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to compete and learn and be successful.
And if I might, to Harvard Model Congress, we're one of only, I think, 2 or 3 public schools that attend the program. So consistently for us to improve our performance there and win awards in committees against mostly private parochial charter schools that tend to have more funding. I think that's an amazing accomplishment on the side of our students, that's their talent shining through, and bring accolades to our district.
And I guess the other question, maybe be the elephant in the room here, so single bed versus double bed?
It was from last year, and that's why we're just asking, because obviously you see it has a huge impact
So
on
are these
cost.
kids flip a coin, one sleeps on the floor? I'm confused.
No, it was, we.
They had
Something I'm
2
missing
in
here?
one bed. 2 kids in one bed.
Right.
Double bed.
And Jack actually
Okay.
brought that forward
Chair.
and said no, and we voted
Yeah,
on it.
really?
And that's what happened. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Is this 5350 based on 2 people in a bed or 1?
That's the number that we were given last year, with 9 students going to, so last year, 9 students went to Harvard Model Congress, and 12 went to Youth and Government. Obviously, now you see the numbers have gone up. The 5350 is what we received from the board last year, so instead of asking for what actually would be half, which is more than 5350, because I'm sure you can do the math that we've presented you, we thought it was more prudent to simply ask for the same amount that we got last year, and we would make up the difference in terms of finding other funding sources.
Okay, I'm still a little confused then. If I take 12 students times 200, I get $2,800 for the youth and government.
Mhm.
If I then take $39.82, which is the cost of the hotel room for double occupancy, I'm getting a total of $67.82. If I divide that by 2, I'm getting a much smaller number than 5350.
So the total for students to go to both programs is, if it's shared bed scenario, it's $9,672.86. That does not include the $115 that they've already paid for Harvard Model Congress, because that was due back in November.
So I already spent $150.
Right, we've already spent, and as a group, we spent $100 for the
Register.
group, and then each student has already paid $115 to register. So that's the shared bed, and then for singles, if it's one student, one bed, it comes out to $11,844.32. So the 5350, if you add in 115 for 12 students, I think we're still at less than half with that ask.
It says a quad is $290 a and you'd have 4 rooms, that would be enough for 16 people, right?
Boys and girls have to be in different rooms.
So how many
So we
rooms are
have-
you
we have-
asking
it's-
for?
It's perfectly even for, so there's 6 girls, 6 boys, so 3 and 3. For the shared, or sorry, and then if we went with 1 person, 1 bed, obviously each double, you need only 2.
So,
And we have no control for youth, I'm sorry, we have no control over youth in government because the YMCA rents out the entire hotel for the program, so double occupancy per bed is sort of mandated. We don't have control over that because we don't pay for our own rooms. We pay the program that rented out the entire hotel. That makes sense.
that makes sense, but the numbers I'm seeing here don't correlate with what you're, right here on your slides, I'm seeing 4 rooms.
Right.
But that's not what you want. You're looking for more than 4 rooms.
So, no. If it's 4 rooms, if we can do double, like 2 people per bed. Because again, there's 6 boys, 6 girls. So we would need 2 rooms for boys, 2 rooms for girls. So that's 4 rooms in total. If we have to do 1 student per bed, then you need 6 rooms, 2 people per room with 2 beds. So it's the same price for room, but we have to get 2 more rooms in order to make that accommodation. Right.
Okay.
So if we just dealt with the, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if we just dealt with the motion on the floor, which is for the money piece of it, and then discuss the single, double, whatever, as an option, that's another piece of it. So right now, the board decision had been what Danny talked about, that it was, 1 kid, 1 bed. So,
Okay.
let's do the money piece first.
Susan, okay. On the screen.
I still don't understand, I know Mr. Woodworth spoke to this, but I still don't understand why it wasn't included in the budget for student activities.
That much money.
It's a lot more money, I would assume. They try to spread it out between, I don't even know, I couldn't even name how many programs get money.
The original submitted budget a year ago, for planning for this year, would have included more money, and this would have been more possible for us to fund. With some student contribution, but nothing what they're presenting now. We weren't successful. That number got put back down. We've been pretty much the same. So that's made it hard for us. We're not gonna say this program is more important than another program. We're trying to fund all the programs in a similar fashion. So we can't meet that, the price that we'd like to get the price down so that they can afford to go. So they're asking for your support independently, trying to, show you the value of the program, and ask for your help.
Business manager here.
So who knocked the money out of the,
I don't know.
Well, I don't think it really matters.
it does matter.
The budget committee?
I don't know
The
where
budget-
as the budget goes through a process of meeting the total value that comes to, we finally, at the end of the process, we will get what you see in terms of the breakout of where the money is.
I'm a little
At the
confused.
school level, we
But
don't,
at a building level.
at the building level, we don't control that. We just receive that
Right.
at the end of this whole process.
Mr. Chair, just as a point of order, if there's going to be continued conversation with Mr. Woodworth, could I ask that he be at a microphone, because this conversation is being held, and the audience cannot hear how he's responding.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like me to continue?
Please.
Can I just ask a question on that same line? When I'm looking at the budget for 2017, I see there was 32,800 budgeted for student activities, miscellaneous expenses.
For this next budget?
No, for
17, 18?
For 17, it was 32,800. This current budget year, it's now 50,600.
No, 17, 18, it was what? Which is the current budget year?
32,800.
What line are you on?
I'm on
And the ask is what?
114,890.
Is that just a general line, or is that the whole kit and caboodle?
Well, regardless of whether it's the, it's.
Is it just for the
it's
high school
student-
building? Or is it the whole student activity line for every building.
Sorry, that was the wrong, that was
It's
athletics,
410.
that's, sorry.
You should
It's
be at
410. I was
410.
on the wrong line.
Yeah, and, so it's only,
It's up by
it's-
about $800.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And what's
Well,
it
let's-
say there, Donna? What's the number, see? Read.
The 2018, the current year's budget is 33,260.
For across the district? Or just for the high school?
I think this is.
This has to be across the district.
Yeah.
It does not
Yes,
broken
the
down by
district.
building code.
That's correct, it's not the building,
So-
that's under the principals line.
And we went through the
I think we-
budget process, we presented, this never came up as a question about it. Then, I don't have the detail, we put some detail in the descriptors when we submitted the budget. But student activities range from everything that, goes on all year, even to things like graduation at the end. So there's quite a bit that comes under those lines, and I can't sit here and pull it apart for you to justify, one program versus another. All I know is that we work really hard to try to get our kids where they need to be, and we've been very fortunate to have the support of the board over the last few years with this particular program, and the program's growing, and we really appreciate. It really wouldn't have happened without the board's support, in my opinion. Even though these kids really work hard, we would not have been able to get them there. So, that's why we're here. We found that this has been an effective way for kids to demonstrate their, their need and their value.
And if I may just say, me and Mr. Richmond did go and see Mr. Woolworth and ask if there was any money in the student activities budget that we could have, and he told us exactly what he's telling you. There wasn't,
We actually did
previous
increase it to a bit,
Right.
But, a couple $1,000s, I
Right.
believe, we went more than last year. So, we're trying to work with it.
Okay, I think the point's been made. I think we should have $6,000 here, we're not gonna spend 3 hours on this thing here.
Thank you.
Let's call this question on the money side of this thing.
Where does this money come from? What budget line? We're giving money, but what
Oh,
budget line is this
would come
coming from?
It would come from the SAU budget.
No,
Not the
No.
SAU, but the,
comes from the
but,
school board discretionary fund.
school board
Has a
budget,
budget.
sorry.
We have a little.
Budget line.
Right, not from the high school.
So, what worries me about this is that, okay, this is the, the government club, and then are we gonna have the swim team and the hockey team, and then,
When you're out of money, you're out of money.
We didn't.
And when you're out,
We
you're
did
out.
last year, Donna, you were
This
part
is
of
what
it.
it
We
is.
talked about that last year, and you brought it up last year, and it was a good point last year.
So when
We
you're out, you're
didn't.
out. Right. So that's,
We didn't. They didn't march all down
it
here.
was, you're talking
which
about
they
later
certainly
on. When you're out, you're out. There's no, there's, I guess it's first come, first served. So if someone comes in 3 months from now, and there's nothing, what can I say?
No, there's a systematic issue here.
It has
It's a-
never
it's a
happened what you
systematic
described.
issue.
What do you mean there's a systematic issue?
We have one club coming to the board for money 3 years in a row. It should be in the budget, or it shouldn't be there anymore.
Okay, we'll put it
We've
in the
given-
budget.
We've given them a leg up 2 years in a row. Now, if this is an important enough club and activity, it should be in the budget. If it's not in the budget,
Well,
I'm sorry, I think
I-
that's the way it goes.
okay, listen, I really don't personally want to get involved in that part of the conversation because I can't even begin to imagine how many clubs there are in the district.
Exactly.
Okay, so, and I'm not about to, tonight, try to figure that out. So I think right now we have some people in front of us here. There's a motion on the floor for, is it $6,000?
Yes.
And then we'll vote that motion, and then we can address the rooms. Fair enough?
That's good.
Can I
Okay.
just ask one, doesn't the rooms affect the amount?
Yeah, I would think it would.
By a
That means
large
they.
amount.
Well,
So,
There's one other aspect in terms of funding, and I would expect students to pay for food, but the programs don't pay for any food for the students. And if you've ever been to Boston, it's not exactly on the cheap. So if we do go with the shared beds, that money would not be wasted. It would go to feeding
Right.
the students so that they can eat in what's quite a very stressful program.
Or not eat.
or not eat, and as the case may be, if you're racked by nerves.
We always bring extra money back. We'll take.
Yeah, absolutely. If we have anything left over, we'll donate it back to the school board because you've been generous to us in the past, and we are
I'm
ridiculously
kidding.
appreciative of that.
Okay.
I don't understand the rationale for going above the requested amount, especially
I
when.
wanted to. That's
Excuse
why.
me?
That's, so you had no
I wanted
rationale?
to.
Okay, just
'Cause I don't think-
wondered what
I
your
don't-
rationale
I
was.
supported
You
it because I don't think
potential
5350
future
is enough.
leaders
It's
in
not high enough.
political areas.
Taking more kids than they did last year.
I mean, it just keeps going up and up. I'm excited for this group. I really
So,
am.
okay, in the amount
Oh.
is for double beds.
Yeah, I mean,
Am I
we've
right?
still gotta come up with more money.
Okay.
Next year it'll
Which-
be double again, and then it'll be
I
$8,000.
don't know about next year. I think you, but I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking should be a policy issue here. It's,
It is a policy issue, and unless
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about single versus double bed.
Oh, let's go back to.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, give me a break. So,
Give them the money.
okay, guys, we want to deal with a little bigger issue here in about
I
45
don't
minutes,
think it is
hopefully. So
either,
I think
so-
I don't want to get bogged down on.
I'm not sure beds are a board action.
Well, I thought it was a school action. Seriously,
I do too.
I think this is.
I forgot that Jack even
Give it
brought
back.
that up. Just give it back.
Give it back
Let's
to
give them the
them.
money first, please. Can we vote the money?
Okay, just give them money and let
one
them
way or
handle
the
it. Like, okay, I will go with this superintendent's recommendation here on this one. There's a motion on the floor to go up to $6,000. All those in favor? Opposed?
I didn't catch that.
I'm sorry, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Opposed?
And what is
Abstentions?
the vote, please?
7-1-1.
Thank you.
So do you want me to make motion for the superintendent to determine how they want to do the beds?
Absolutely, yes.
So moved.
And I second,
No,
second the motion.
And the parents, I mean, give me,
I would second the motion.
Let
would
them
make it-
decide?
Let them,
Let them decide how they want to do the beds then.
Work with the superintendent and the building principal and the.
We're
and the-
very
I'm not
happy
gonna make a
making that a
motion if they don't want
building-based
one.
decision. We can work with the kids, the
guys
programs, the
figure it
families,
out.
figure
Yeah.
that out.
Figure it out.
Okay?
This board
All
does
right.
not need to be in the.
right, that's, yeah,
That's fine.
all righty. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right.
good luck.
I know we're not supposed to clap, but
Well-
yay!
Clap for this one. Clap for this one, and yeah, that's it.
That's
We
right.
get them out of your
One more,
system,
one
you know.
more thing, before Cam leaves,
Oh, yes.
I would like everyone to know, and that we are recognizing Cam for an award that he's received. He has been selected as one of only 2 students in New Hampshire to serve as the delegate in the U.S. Senate Youth Program. Cam? He will serve from March 3rd to March 10th in 2018, very soon. And he also is receiving a $10,000 college scholarship. Very proud of you.
Thank you very
Great
much.
job.
Very nice, Cam.
Nice job.
Thank you.
And where is that scholarship from?
The Hearst Foundation, which funds the entire program, all expense paid trip to Washington for a week where we meet with the president, vice president, and congressional leaders and cabinet.
That's awesome.
That's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay,
Thank you.
let's see if we can get the April STEAM camp up here, because I can see we're not following agenda or top timeframe here.
Good evening.
Good
I believe
evening.
there's a PowerPoint that goes with this.
Wave my magic
Okay.
wand.
Well, while we're getting that up, good evening. I am Mark Pedersen. I'm the Academic Dean of Science, Engineering, Industrial Trades, Computer Science, PE, and Health. Hopefully coming up. There it is. I come to you tonight asking the board to financially support the 4th grade STEAM April Break STEAM Camp. For the past 3 years, this had been funded by a donation from ExxonMobil. They actually came to me about 4 years ago and gave me money and said, use it to promote STEAM. And then I got it for the following 2 years. And unfortunately, this year, that money didn't come through. So I ask you tonight to help support that. It's for fourth grade, and I'm the academic dean of science at 6 through 12. But when I took this academic leadership position 7 years ago, I said to myself, and actually I said in the interview, I'm committed to make Timberlane known for STEM, not just wrestling and music. And I feel as though working with elementary teachers and elementary students, we can make that happen. So I've been doing whatever I can to ensure that STEM, STEAM is promoted at all grade levels. So this camp, like I said, had been previously funded by ExxonMobil with a $2,000 donation in their part, but that's not coming through this year, so I'm asking you for that donation. So if we go ahead, what is the purpose of the camp? The purpose of this camp is to ignite the interest in STEM, STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. The ideas and potential career options for fourth graders across the Timberlane district. We picked fourth grade because we felt as though those students were the most vulnerable to losing interest in STEM. There's science-based research that talks about that's sort of the age group at which these kids sort of lose that spark, lose that interest. So we felt as though we target those students to promote STEM. We also look to promote diversity with bringing in more females, and every year that we've done this, we've gotten about 50-50 males to females, which is, I think, great to have those girls work alongside the boys on all these projects. So
Boys work with the girls.
boys work with the girls. Thank you, Ms. Sherman.
Welcome.
So these students will work with high school mentors and 2 elementary school teachers who will explain the science concepts and help the fourth graders design, engineer, and build devices and that demonstrate those science concepts. So I've got some pictures from our previous years, some of our students working on some things, and these are kids actually doing science. They're not just listening to somebody read about science, they're actually heavily engaged in science and doing some experiments that we do even at the secondary level. So these kids are truly doing science down at the fourth grade level. So there are some pictures. Here's some more students, especially like the boy in the middle there. He is super excited about what he's looking at. But it's a great time for the students. It's a great time for the teachers. It's a great time for the high school students who get to mentor these younger students. In fact, the first year that kids came through that program are now 7th graders. And the other day when I was down at the middle school doing a experiment with the 7th grade class, the girls remembered the things that they did in STEAM camp and were referencing back to the things that they learned. So I know it's working.
And the boys?
Not the boys. No, the boys were well. So why are we promoting STEAM? TRHS Engineering Partnership. I've heard in almost every single meeting that I've had is we need to get more kids involved in STEAM or STEM fields. We're running out of those people to work in those jobs. We need to promote this. There's the Governor's Task Force for STEM to help young people develop the skills and innovative thinking needed for jobs that our growing businesses are creating. And finally, STEAM thinking is 21st century thinking. When you look at what it is, it's collaboration, it's communication, critical thinking, and that art part, that creativity, that's so critical in STEM thinking. So some more details. It's open to 4th grade students from around the district, so typically we have students from all 4 of our elementary schools. The dates of the camp are Monday through Thursday in April break. So hopefully I get the funding for it, and so here's my shameless plug to hopefully get some people to sign up for it. It's 3 hours a day, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The students get a T-shirt that's designed by a high school student, and every day they get to take home a project. They make a project every day that's related to some sort of science or STEAM concept, and then they get to bring it home. And then finally, the cost and registration information. There is a $25 registration fee that helps to offset some of these costs. My costs usually run anywhere between $2,500 and $3,000. So there is that registration fee. And then hopefully if we get to run this camp, information and permission slips will be sent home with 4th grade students in January. Work closely with the elementary schools, and they do a phenomenal job at helping me, not only with providing 2 teachers every year for this, but also those administrators helping to get the word out and help with the registration. So, once again, I ask the board to just support me in this endeavor with $2,000.
Mrs. Sherman.
I'll move to offer $2,500.
I'll second that.
And then if I could speak to it, I am deeply disappointed that our sponsor has backed out on us, since they're responsible for the Beatty site cleanup, et cetera. That's a tiny, tiny bit of money that they're offering this community for the damage that was done to that environmentally fragile piece of land. So I am shocked and saddened by that. So I want to continue to support this very good initiative for our kids.
Thank you.
Dan?
In the future, so like going forward, are you gonna try to budget for this?
I
mean, obviously now you didn't get it, so I get that this year, but
Yeah.
going forward.
So going forward, what I would look to do is I'd have to talk with the building principals to figure out how to budget for it, because it's
Okay.
not just a high school thing.
Right.
It's because I'm having kids from all 4 towns.
Yeah.
I'd have to sit down with Dr. Metzler, the whole administrative team, and look at what's the best way to budget for this. Or do I go out looking for other grants? At this point, I don't know. This was one of those things where I had this sort of free money coming to me,
Yeah.
and then when it ended, I went and asked Dr. Metzler and the SLT, what do you guys want me to do?
Okay.
And the suggestion was I come here first asking if the
Okay.
board wants to
So
support
this
this.
will be a discussion for,
That would
you're
be-
going to have to try to figure out how to budget for it and where to budget for it.
Correct. That would be my hope for the future. I'd obviously have
Okay.
to talk to Dr. Metzler and see what his feelings on that were.
Okay.
Okay, so as was brought up in the last presentation, I'm in favor of the project here. I guess I'm curious now, now that it was brought up 5-10 minutes ago, where does the money come from?
There is a line in the budget that is miscellaneous expenses under school board
That's why we take
that had 25,000 in it.
in the 17-18 budget year, right? The one we're in.
Yes.
Okay, so
That was the,
that's where the
what
other
have we
money
spent
would
so
come.
far, though? That was in the budget?
I don't have the year-to-date
Well, I know we spent
numbers.
6. We just approved 6.
Our finance person is here.
We never keep track, we just give out money willy-nilly, quite honestly.
Jeff,
This
could
isn't
you please come up
willy-nilly.
here, please? I can see you get you the laptop there whipped up, which is nice.
He's got his little.
I think,
So, I don't know if you heard that question, so I guess the school board has a budget of up to 25,000?
Correct, yes, and Dr. Farah, I believe you probably have the account right in front of you.
2319, 890.
I'll tell you how you're doing on that this year.
2319, I'm sorry, 2319, 890.
Yep. Yeah, you have a balance of 19,000
Yeah.
as of right now in that account.
19,000 is the balance. Do you know what we expended out of that account already?
Is that where our treats
Well,
come out of? And
That would be 6,000, right?
Chairs
If we're at 19?
we would've
Different
been-
meeting.
No, that
Different-
wouldn't have been, that wouldn't have been recorded in there yet.
No, I mean, if we're, he just said we have a balance of 19,000.
19, so we just
And-
took another 6, so now we're down to 13,000.
Right.
But she's asking what if we had 25, where'd the first 6 go?
Yeah,
Did it
that's
get
what-
eaten up with just regular stuff like food and, does our treats come out of that?
To a degree, yeah, we had some.
I know we didn't eat $6,000 worth of treats, but maybe.
I did.
We had some of that in some of the strategic planning session.
Strategic planning stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Funds
The,
have been drawn from that
Is that
account.
where we paid
Okay,
the
so,
consultant from?
so you're looking for 1,000? What are you looking for?
No,
was looking for
2,500.
2,000.
I'm
Kim and Sue's looking for 2,500, and we have
We're down at
13?
13,000 in this budget, and I don't know if all the strategic planning has been paid. Has it?
I'm sure it's been encumbered.
Yeah, yeah. It's been encumbered, 'cause I think you had a couple sessions, I thought you'd contemplated one or two, and
So
I don't know
we're
that you're doing much more work with that consultant.
That's
at-
the consultant's pay?
At this time.
No, we're done.
I think, yeah.
Well, at this juncture anyway, so.
Okay.
So we're down to 13,000 after the 6.
Correct.
Which is about half the amount, and we're not quite halfway through the academic year.
So $2,500.
$2,500 is gonna take it down.
Could I ask
I know.
Mr. Peterson a question, please?
Sure.
So, Mr. Peterson, when did you find out that your funding wouldn't be coming through for this year?
Well, I wasn't officially told that it wasn't. I hadn't gotten it yet. Usually I get it by, I want to say, October, November. And I reached out to them multiple times, and I never heard back from them. So, I kind of went with the assumption that I wasn't getting it because I hadn't received it yet. And after asking them, I still hadn't heard back, so.
Hope they don't want us to go over and wear the hard hats over there and take photographs for their nice glossy posters, because I'd say no.
Well, I would just like to say that, they're remediating the site, and they're doing everything they've been asked to do, and they're being good corporate citizens now, and they don't have to be paying their penance for now and forever.
That was part of their agreement to
Well-
offer community stuff. I'm part of, I know more stuff, but
Well, whatever. Listen, people, please.
it's $2,500.
I understand. So my first concern is apparently that we know we have $2,500. We know where it's coming from. That was why I asked the question. I believe the board is in support of the, yes, Donna?
Yes, it's a wonderful program, just like the Government Club is a wonderful program. All of these are wonderful programs. The problem is that this is a problem. We cannot have clubs and things coming to us and appealing to our beneficence and giving out tax money like this. That's not the way the budget process is supposed to work.
I'm not sure I agree with that. As far as I'm concerned, the people who are running the district, I would expect some kind of coordination from this. It's pretty apparent to me that as you come in front of this board, if there's money, it's worthwhile cause, there's about a 95% chance, or maybe even higher, you're going to get it. We can only give what we have. So that's how I look at it. Tonight, we have the money. You're talking 25, and it's something that's been going. If you had a corporate sponsor, and you haven't heard from that, and you've reached out there, you're probably right. You're probably not going to get a Christmas present, so I wouldn't be waiting for that. So,
Can you explain to me out of the $2,000 what your expenses are, roughly?
So I have to pay the teachers that work at it.
And how much is that out of the 2,000?
I believe the stipends last year were totaled 500 for the teachers.
Okay.
And then that was 500 apiece for the teachers because of all the work that they did. And then buying the equipment and supplies. Well, not equipment, excuse me, buying
Kids.
the supplies for the kids. So because each kid gets to go home with something, I have to buy that equipment, or buy those supplies. So each kid has something to make.
Right, so you have 3 teachers at 500 and then 500 for supplies? I'm just trying to understand the budget.
We've past couple of years, we've always had just 2 teachers. So 500 for each teacher. So it's $1,000 for teachers, $1,000 for supplies, and then the T-shirts as well that the kids get.
And how many students participated last year?
How many? Somewhere in the range of 20 to 25. We try to cap it around 25, so I believe it was no more than 25.
Because you use one lab, right?
Yeah, we use one lab room, so
you've got
it's
a
safety issues.
Safety issue there.
So 500 in registration fees.
So, yeah, so when I misspoke about the $1,000 for supplies, it's more than that. It's been in the range of 1,300. I also actually, in the past years, used some of that ExxonMobil money to pay for the AP STEAM night at the end of the year when the AP students are presenting their projects. So some of the physics kids actually needed some supplies. all the kids presented their work through poster boards, so I used some of that money to buy poster boards. I also used some of that money to buy them dinner, because they went straight from 7 in the morning till, 6, 7 at night. So I felt as though it was appropriate to buy them dinner. And you go to any sort of science symposium, there's always a little bit of food there for the kids or for the, scientists. So I wanted to try to do them right. And I felt that was an appropriate use of that ExxonMobil money.
And what do you do, how do you get the T-shirts? Do you get those donated, or do you have to buy those
No,
as
we have to
well?
buy those.
So that's another expense.
Yeah.
So I really don't see the need for the T-shirts, and I don't see a need for a project that goes.
It's not your program.
Wait a minute.
It's
Yeah,
his.
that's right, but it's our money.
Can we move the question, please? I'd like to move the question.
With stuff and alone?
We are giving away taxpayer money here that
Mm-hmm.
could otherwise go back to them. And we're doing it for
$2,500.
food and for T-shirts and for something that goes home.
And for
Yes.
inspiration. It's worth the money for inspiration.
Well-
Keep a kid in science.
Our children.
Okay, listen. Hey. Again, we're not gonna get into the big passion debate over $2,500. I think the message is clear, that, again, the school board, the communities support these programs. And as we'll be going into the budget discussion again, there are limited resources. So I appreciate you coming in and doing your thing, absolutely, for supporting your passion for the program and what you've done for it so far. Obviously, you've got a very good track record, and the program's working well. So tonight, we'll have this vote shortly here. Tonight, there is money. So who knows what there is 2, 3, or 4 years from now. I'm personally, I respect Mrs. Green's opinion on this thing, but I am personally not going to dwell on line items that are $5,000 or less when we have some real issues here, and that's kind of what I count on the people who run the district to handle and to prioritize. And I think that's what's going to be happening. I think that has been happening. So there is this process. It's been brought up. When it's money, but where's the money coming from? Okay, as the chairman of the school board, I learned something tonight. Okay, now I know. I did not know this half an hour ago, that we had a fund of $25,000. So now I know, and it's half gone. Great. So and everything's been done legit and all for a good cause. And I'm very comfortable with what's going on here with the consultant. And so that's what the money was for. The money's for programs like this, and that's what we're doing. So I think we should take this thing to a vote right now and put this thing to bed. There's a motion on the floor for $2,500, correct?
Yes.
All those in favor of $2,500? Opposed? Motion passes. I'm sorry, abstentions?
And what's the vote, please?
8-1. Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, science.
Okay, please.
So why don't we put the whole school budget through the
That's
school
what we're going to talk
board?
about. Well, this is what you're going to see right here.
Let's put the whole budget through the school board miscellaneous fund.
Okay.
Okay, it'd be great if you,
Look how well
but,
it's spent the line.
that'd be, I think if we can run the school on 25,000, that'd be fantastic.
We'd all get voted back in.
Okay, a little quiet here in the room here, so,
People are moving.
okay, default budget. Now, before you get into anything, Jeff, I have personally, on this particular topic, default budget, I have, we started this, I think a few meetings ago, by a vote of the school board. I was asked to meet with council about this particular subject matter, default budgets. I have met with, actually 4 lawyers. I met with 3 lawyers, one over the phone. The most recent one was our own counsel, Jim O'Shaughnessy. Did that, I think, on Monday or Tuesday. Now, it was brought up by a speaker earlier tonight, which was not 100% accurate. The default budget, I clearly probably know a little more about this than I wanted to know about, quite frankly. The default budget is a budget if the voters cannot approve a proposed budget. The proposed budget, as we know, I believe right now, the Budget Committee has come up with a number to bring to public hearing of 71, I think 759. That will go to a public hearing. Then it'll go to a deliberative session, which can be amended up or down, I believe up to 10%.
No, there's no limit on down.
Oh, okay.
It's
Okay.
up, Mr.
So,
Chairman.
so, thank you. So, that's a different budget. And when it comes out of the deliberative, that is what will go on the warrant. Now, the default budget, having, and actually all four lawyers pretty much came up with the same legal opinion. There is no black and white with default budgets. There's a general formula and suggestion, but it's crystal clear to these lawyers who advised me, most recently our own counsel. The people who weigh in on the default budget are the people in this room, the people who sit in the front of this room, the 9 members of the elected school board. You can seek advice, you can take any kind of input you want, but the only people that can determine what's a one-time expense, and anything that adds up to that number comes from the front of this room. Now, we've watched and participated in the last 4 or 5 weeks. As pointed out by some speakers, there's been obviously a lot of staff interest, and then there's also been all kinds of interest from the general public by way of social media, because we are in the season, as they say, of budgets. And what I've observed and participated in terms of like raw numbers, I believe I personally was hoping to, quite frankly, be below a 70 number, and that's not going to happen. I've listened to this board 2 weeks ago. We came up with a number of 70.5 million, and then directed our school board rep, gave him the authority to go up to 71 million when he participated in a vote of the Budget Committee. Superintendent is not with us tonight, but I believe we've all heard him say that whatever the voters come up with, Timberlane will run. Timberlane will open in the fall. He's very comfortable that a 70 million, quote unquote, I think he said his sweet spot was 72. Now, these are numbers, okay? Now, last year, this district ran on 67.2 million. I believe we ended up with a surplus of close to 2.5 million. We've had a lot of, I've actually had, that's why we're generating them tonight, I've had a lot of conversations with the vice chair, I've had conversations with the super. Needless to say, like I mentioned, I had lengthy conversations with counsel on this, and from a legal standpoint, there is no case law. I pretty much, you can well imagine, those who know me, I pretty much cross-examine the heck out of these lawyers, because I want to make sure that what we're doing is legal, because I'm not going to help guide the Timberlane School District down something that is not legal. In the overall advice I got was just be reasonable and make sure you don't put the district in a position that they can't function in. Which, me personally, I never really had that in mind. So I will just, as we get into this conversation here tonight, I will just share with the board, because you saw one of the written opinions that we received from from Sol Kidder. And what they did, that firm represents, I think, over 40 districts. They actually used to be Timberlane's lawyer less than 10 years ago. And they had legal advice, and then they had business advice. And it was interesting that Attorney O'Shaughnessy's advice was almost verbatim. Of course, he had the luxury of having their written opinion in front of him. So it's, before we get into this thing, I will just caution people that I have spent quite a bit of time on this particular subject from a legal standpoint. Am I the lawyer? No. But I'm comfortable in telling you that this board has its legal authority to pretty much do what this board can do. It's not, there's no black and white. As a former selectman, as a former budget committee member in Atkinson for years, it is a little frustrating when you're serving the general public in these chairs and you look to the state for guidance, and one would think that it would be simpler than it is. As all four lawyers said, which makes no sense to me, that's by design. Interesting. So, when I look at what the well, let's see, I'd say there's a total of 18 of us, 9 on the school board, 9 on the budget committee. And anyone who, well, a lot of you people in the audience here
That's
were...
16, not 18.
I'm sorry, isn't it 9 and 9?
9 and 9
I'm
is
sorry,
18.
you're right, you're right. Good. Good point.
Okay, but I'm just saying, there's 9 elected people that have been talking about this, well, for a good 6 weeks. And having been at that meeting last Thursday, I honestly believe the budget committee, there was a lot of soul searching, and what I observed was 9 individuals speaking from the heart on what they felt they're going to put in front of the voters. They're well aware of that when they go into a deliberative session, that it's the general public's meeting, and that never can change. But nobody in that budget committee that I saw took that very lightly at all. They took it very serious. I agree with them. I take this very serious myself, and I know that I've got a few hours on it. I think I know Dr. Farah has a few more hours than I do on actual numbers. And I personally, I'll let Kim talk in a few minutes, but I saw the document that was in our packet, I guess, a couple weeks ago that we didn't, it was a proposed default budget, I believe, that we didn't get around to discussing. And it was, I think it was over $73 million, I believe.
Again, it's 73 and a half.
73 and a half. And me personally, I know that, Jeff, in all due respect, you put those numbers together using a process. That number represents about $5 million more than we spent last year. In good conscience, I cannot find that fiscally responsible. I personally won't support a number anywhere near that, me personally. Everyone can vote their conscience like the budget committee did. I want to make sure the number that we put in front of the voters is what it is intended to be. The default budget is intended to be, which, if the voters can't pass a budget. Now, Timberlane has had the good fortune over the years that I don't think we have the problem a lot of other communities in the state have. So it's been my experience, when this district wants something, and gets put on the budget, they will pay for it. Now, when I look at a default budget, I look at it, and I, as I read this thing literally, and like I say, spent a lot of time with the individual, with the lawyers. It was, I'll be honest with you, it was more confusing after meeting with them, and I just wanted to make sure that Kim was there with us in the first meeting. And then the other ones, the one I just spoke to on the phone, this is a lawyer who's done some work for the district before, and I was interviewing this guy. As I was interviewing this nice gentleman on the phone, Dean Egert, he spent 40 minutes on the phone, which we won't say a bill to, but it just so happens that this group is going to talk about tonight what the whole state's talking about. It happens this time of year, and from what all four of these firms said, that everything you're asking, Brian, it's been asked 100 times. So this is your legals, rights. Keep in mind, only your board is the governing body here. Only your board has the authority to make this happen. So with that in mind, I know there's a general formula, which I think that you probably made your construction of the budget on. And probably where the difference of opinion would be is what a group would consider a one-time expense or a non-contractual. That's because there's different opinions on that, as I found out. I look at a number, because see, once this board comes up with a number, it's a number. So even though there's a form, which I think we chatted briefly about over the phone, Jeff, but I looked up, there is as you know, there's a state form. I think it's about 3 pages, I believe, the default budget form, where you fill it out and it breaks it down by line, but realistically, it's a bottom line. So if you have the situation where the voters reject a proposed budget and you fall into default, then it'll pretty much be up to the administration and this board how that number runs the district next year. So with that in mind, I will tell you that last year you spent $67.2 million. You're running right now as an expenditure just over $69 million. That's what they're spending to run the district this year. My couple of conversations with Dr. Metzler, he's confident that he can run the district. That, by the way, the $69 million that's no surplus. So he's pretty confident that he can be in that $69 to $70 million number to run a district. So you should always take whatever that number is at a minimum and add it. You should have a surplus, because you have to have a surplus. You cannot run just on expenses. So, Peter?
Couple things. Again, we haven't seen any proposal yet, but Dr. Metzler has never stated publicly, or to me personally, that he's comfortable running this district and educating the students adequately on that kind of money. All he said was he will deal with what he has to deal with. That is not the same thing. It's a far cry from the same thing.
Okay.
I'm not done, please.
Okay.
And the second thing is, the RSA actually defines fairly well how to craft the default budget. It is, even this written opinion doesn't say it's that fluffy and you can just come up with whatever number you want, which is what I heard implied here. It lists a set of steps. I have faith that our finance person, who's also an attorney, followed those to the letter of the law. And I think that's a valid place to start. Maybe ask questions, maybe he has something wrong, possibly in all these numbers. But to say that we as a governing body can kind of make it up as we go along is not the truth. And even in this written opinion, on the very final page, it says that each board member on the form to disclose the default budget, the board is required to certify under the pains and penalties of perjury that it is true, accurate, and complete. So if we just make something up, I'm not going to sign it. You know, if it's got to follow the RSA.
And
You know,
that's
and
what-
you're going to need 5 signatures. Maybe you have them, maybe you don't. But I'm saying, you know, that this is not
So,
good to do that.
so Pete, let me ask you a question. So you've signed previous documents?
I have.
Did you like personally audit each item on there? I mean, there are hundreds of documents. Did you personally audit each one of these things?
Brian,
I'm just asking you
you're
a question.
making up crap.
I'm making
sorry.
up crap. I'm making up crap here.
This is not an argument.
True, inaccurate, and complete on the pains of, so you're suggesting, because I heard someone challenge me a couple weeks ago on this budget committee that I was making up numbers. My numbers are coming from real numbers. The Timberlane School District ran on 67, I didn't make this number up.
But that has
I didn't
nothing
make it
to do
up.
with the default budget, Brian.
It has nothing to do with the default budget.
Thank you. I'm glad you admitted that. So
I
set
admit
it
that.
aside.
I admit that.
And
But
go
here's-
forward.
But here's the other thing I'll admit. Having met with 4 lawyers, there is no black and white, this is exactly how you fill out a default budget. That is not true.
No, I believe you're incorrect. The fact,
Okay.
you know, you stated multiple times that there's been no case
Okay.
law tells me that the people who've been following the RSA haven't, no one's been required to sue them. There is no case law.
Oh, I see. We live in a
That's
perfect
not
world.
true.
We live in a
You know
perfect
that's not
world.
true.
So,
You know
any rate,
that's because nobody
so
has
I
standards.
think you're, as you can see, I've got this thing highlighted in yellow here, so we can, this board has all kinds of broad authority.
But you don't have, it doesn't have that much power. It doesn't.
Okay, so that's okay, that'll be opinion, and I guess I will tell you, I'm very comfortable having spent time with these 4 individuals. One is our counsel, the other 2 were our former counsels. There's 3 out of 4 who've actually done work for this district. And when I met with Jim O'Shaughnessy, I said, that's why I'm up here, I said, this is what I'm running by you, because jump right out at me if you tell me something I'm doing that's not legal. That's why I'm here. I didn't drive up here to waste my time this afternoon. That's the only reason I went to see him. So I just want to make sure. So, we're not even at a number yet, but I'm pretty comfortable with what, and by the way, I'm well aware there's a proposed budget, and there's a default budget. But I also know the main reason for default budget is to keep the doors open. If the voters cannot pass a budget, we keep the doors open. We default to the number. So that's the whole rationale behind it.
Of course, but you don't
So-
get up, you don't get to make up how that number is calculated. The RSA does.
That's a formula.
As a suggestion, right. And then you interpret what you consider one-time expenditures.
Well, yeah,
That's
you
right.
gotta pick them out.
That's right.
Oh,
That's right, and it's up for interpretation.
There you
What's
go.
a one-time, non-recurring,
Mhm.
that's, for me, that's the biggie. What's non-recurring?
yeah.
Expense.
So,
It's
anyhow.
tricky.
Well, you can
It's
call it
tricky.
tricky, but it's
It's a
very.
gray area.
Okay, and it very quickly gets down to a number. And the people who weigh in on that number are sitting at this table. That's it. So, do you want to give us, Tim, a little, what you've come up with here? A little bit?
So you're ignoring the work that Jeff
No,
has done?
totally not ignoring the work that Jeff has done. I will be happy to go over every single budget line that Jeff wants to go over to explain this rationale.
Would it be okay if I had some context to the budget that you have in front of you as proposed?
Have you not seen that?
No.
What
No,
Kim's got?
I don't know what, no, the 73.6, I believe, was the default budget.
What do you mean
we-
some context for the budget that you proposed? I mean, you proposed that budget.
You did. That's correct.
Trying to connect it to
He'd like to present it.
Well, no, I don't need to present it. You've all had an opportunity to take a look at it, and had the benefit of a couple meetings, a couple weeks
All right, well,
to be able to review
I
it.
guess I
But
don't need to pass it. Well, you know,
Okay.
if we go into 1100 through 1199, regular programs, you proposed 16,594, I'm proposing 16,568, 194. That's a reduction of $26,265.
What line?
Is this something,
I'm just looking at the default budget that was passed out 2 weeks ago.
But you've got something else you're referring to.
No,
and
not
you
right
don't
now.
have those
Nope.
numbers.
That's all I have right now.
But you have something you're saying you want to make it something else. You don't have
Right.
that written down? and that you give to us?
1100.112.
You don't have anything to give out to us so that we can follow along?
You have the same
okay.
budget I do.
Why?
Why? We deleted we eliminated 2 full-time positions. They are not in this budget year at all. That's a deletion of a .3 teacher, which would be one of the deans, because one of the deans that was eliminated was .7 admin and .3 teacher. Is that not correct?
Approximately.
Well, I looked at the salary detail, so yes, that is, I mean, we can go deeper into the lines if you want, but that, it is what it is. So I'm suggesting that line 1100.112 gets decreased by $26,265.
say that number again?
1100.112.
Dollar amount.
Oh, 26,265.
Thank you.
So that goes against what Sol, Leslie, and
No,
Kidder
that does
said.
not go against what Leslie, and Kidder said.
Simply put, a change in personnel is not binding on the district on the next year, and therefore does not result in a change to the default budget.
If you want to say that,
Read the whole
then
thing.
I'm not gonna read the
Yes.
whole letter.
Oh, I don't blame you, because it says we can do it.
Where'd they say?
I'm just reading
one
specifically about this change.
Mm-hmm.
It does say that we can do it, and there's precedent for this in last year's default budget, because I did go back to 2016, 2017, and reviewed that budget, and I find that there were cuts in the salary line which were not in keeping with the increased contractual obligations, and even this year, your salaries on 1100.112 don't really reflect the actual increase that would be contractual per the TTA increase. Well, maybe this year, but last year, there was definitely some adjustments made in the default budget.
I didn't
So-
prepare that budget, but
I know, I'm just saying I know you didn't prepare it, but there's precedent for an adjustment within a salary line.
it's the board's discretion. And if I may, Dr. Farah, the context that I'd like to present was that there's a particular form that we file with the DRA, which is the MS-DS, and that's broken up a little bit differently than what you have in front of you. Certainly, my impression was, and it was the request of this board, to be able to review a line-by-line budget. And we put that together. And I've been able to do the things that I need to do to be able to produce that in that form. And it's been produced for the purpose of having discussion.
Okay?
So I just want that to be the context.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
People are looking at me like,
No, I understand. No.
if you haven't made a decision as to a certain piece of equipment or whatever it may be, we're putting it out there. You guys make the decision.
Exactly. Mhm.
Right.
So when we look at 73.6, don't, no.
We're talking about it, yeah.
That's what we're discussing. And so I'm glad to have that open dialogue. And if it's something that the board agrees to remove, that's fine. We'd like to discuss it a little bit more, and that's why it's out there. So it's not me being an ogre requesting something that.
Exactly.
Well,
No, we'll put it out there. I'm not sure.
Well, see, Jeff,
That's
I
fine.
appreciate.
I don't expect you to sign that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because what I'm hearing from some people on this board, they think you had this magic number, that's, because you put down 73.6, that's it? That must be it? Is that what you were thinking? Is that what you guys were thinking?
No,
Oh, I thought that's what you, I thought
Waiting
you
for
were going
him
down.
to
that
actually present
I
this
was
to us
hoping
and
he was
go
gonna
over
present
it.
it.
So,
yeah.
but
That didn't happen.
what I thought I heard was, we want to hear from Jeff, because he's got the default budget that we can live. I thought I
It's
wasn't
a
hearing
starting
that?
point.
So, okay, so now we're at a starting point. Okay. Good, because again,
Well, we're at a starting point, and we're going through it, so.
I want to make clear that that's certainly my intent, and I
thank
think it's a
you.
fruitful discussion.
Thank you.
That we're able to have. So I hope that puts everyone on a good note as far as this discussion goes.
We're all happy.
Well, listen, you know, and yeah, well, we're happy to, but and listen, you know what, I really, you know, that I've got a lot of time in this subject matter, and I respect the people that are in the audience tonight, and there's people that are watching this home. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to this when you're talking about this kind of money, and it's a little more involved than doubling up a bed or whatever the heck was, you know. This is stuff that it's a very serious matter as far as I'm concerned, and you know, I thank you. So go ahead, keep going.
And if I could, would someone be able to get the light? If it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I have one request as we go through, because this is not really what we've had in the past to be able to project. I'll show you. Dean might have to, Dean, if you could scroll down. As we go on to the next page, this is the form that we filed last year. If you could go up just a little bit, Dean, up. Perfect. If you look, if you look at that, you'll see that we do it by function code, 1100 to 1199. And then we have the prior year adopted budget, reductions or increases, one-time appropriations, and we come out with the default budget. If you go down almost to the last page, Dean, I think you'll find, as we go through this, line by line, that's it right there. You'll see that the DRA requires an explanation on the line items.
Mm-hmm.
So as we go through and make adjustments,
Right.
I've indicated on my proposed changes where it's diverged, what that is. So I just ask that we be conscious of being able to articulate and help me be able to articulate on this form what that is.
Sure.
So that's all. So I can certainly go through the budget. It sounds like you had an opportunity to go through it.
I'm ready to go through
Certainly
it.
try to provide detail where applicable. If there are specific questions relative to calculations, I'm more than happy to discuss those, or if you'd like to go through and function by function or line by line, however you want to approach it, let's chat.
I have the roll-up that you just referred to there. We can go through it by those lines, or we can go through it in a more detailed set of lines.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I don't know. I'm ready to go through it both ways.
You want to go through this thing line by line? 17 pages? Okay.
It's up to the rest of the board.
Perhaps it would be prudent to go over the summary, and then where there are questions on particular lines, then go to the detail.
Okay, so
Fair enough.
when we look at the summary, lines 1100 through 1199, the prior year adopted budget was 19,647,949. I'm suggesting the default at 19,833,921.
So you don't have a set of those for the board to look at?
No, she didn't. I asked you that. She already said no.
Unfortunately, I have
Just look
a
at the
full-time
numbers.
job in addition to this, and I'm a single mom, so I think it's fair that I just
I just
didn't
asked
have
the
enough
question.
time to do it.
We do have somebody who perhaps can make a copy of things.
Okay. Well, these are just my notes on here. I don't know if anybody has any other questions on that line.
Could you say it again?
Okay.
Line 1100 through 1199, default budget 19,833,921.
You reduced it by how much? This would be the third time she's repeated.
There's an increase of 421,983. And there's a one-time appropriation, which is a reduction of 236,007. Actually, I have a hard copy of that.
Where's the
I have a hard
reduction?
copy of this. Where's the reduction?
One that you just
Yeah.
said, the 200,000, whatever.
It's on multiple lines.
So this is what you just said you didn't
I'm-
have, because you worked too hard.
No, Peter, you were asking me for the details. This is a summary.
This is what I asked you
This is a
for.
summary.
That's what Sue asked you for, this is what I asked you for, thank you.
This is
Can
not.
we have a copy?
This is not what I, okay. Sure, you can have a copy.
Thanks.
Okay, so I did not have time to make a copy of the detail.
Okay.
You don't
We
understand,
can
that's
take
a
notes on the
summary.
detail.
Do you have another one of the summaries? Thank you.
I'm just gonna make a copy so Dr. Wilson can have.
No, you're
one.
not. You're gonna take the minutes. I'm gonna ask Christie to do it. Thanks.
Could I have one as well?
Yes, how about,
The osmosis thing isn't working so well.
You can see, I'll just hold it up.
Good job, Dr. Wilson.
you're welcome,
Good job, thank you.
delegation.
Any questions on that line?
So this is a summary, I get you, so
Yeah.
you're
So if we look at the,
111.99, I get you.
Regular ed.
if we look at the 1100 line,
Mhm.
when I put that together, I looked at what our contracts are with our staff, where we have contracts, and have increased the step and rate to comport with the current year, the then current year.
Correct, I did not, there's no adjustments on line 1112 on professional salaries to those in the room. There's
explaining
no
how-
downward adjustment on professional salaries.
But you had mentioned one time.
Except for a one-time deletion of 26,265. That is a position that was eliminated by the board.
That was on 112, object code 112.
Yeah.
Okay, and you had a total of 421,000?
Wait, do you not have this, do you have the summary sheet I have?
No, we
Get him
went
a
to
copy.
get a copy.
It's coming,
It's coming.
I have one more copy.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's why I said the osmosis
Sorry,
wasn't working
sorry,
so well. I had
that's-
one coming from downstairs.
I thought you picked the copies.
All down, so they'll leave. That's what they're trying to do.
Oh, well done, okay.
Thank you.
So I'd be curious on the reductions, if there's a specific object code, or does it?
The
Is there a general
reduction
scheme?
is, line 430 was reduced by 2293. The 2019 proposed budget is less by that amount, so that seems to be a justification for reducing that line. Obviously, there was a one-time expense in there. Line 640 is reduced from 286,065 to 223,851. The request for 2019 is 223,851. That means there must have been a one-time expense in there. Line 738 is reduced from 214,739 to, from 244,739 to 214,739. The 2017 budget shows 212,000 for that line, so that increase into 2018 would be considered a one-time expense. So that's where those adjustments come on the 1100 to 1199 lines.
Have the lines been increased where there has been an increase in the budget?
There was no changes to your default budget other than the ones I just said.
Okay.
So yes, there were, when you look at the summary that goes to DRA, you'll see the increase, and then you'll see other increases too.
Okay, I see, yep. Okay.
So could you show me, or tell me, where do you take into account the contractually obligated raises in the teacher salaries?
Line 1112.
Okay.
That's Mr. Dowd's number. I did not
Okay.
adjust that number other than to decrease it by $26,000,
Okay,
$265.
okay.
I think you'd mentioned that you would have presumed there to be a one-time expenditure on the 430, and the object code 430 and the 1100 line from last year to this year?
Well, the proposed 2019 is less than this amount by $2,293. So something's coming out of that line.
That's the repair and maintenance.
It's just an adjustment of maintenance, and it may be shifting from one account to another, and that's why it asks. If we're decreasing in one line, we'd have to look and increase it in wherever it had gone up. But it looks like you've done some increases
Yeah.
as well, so.
Yep. So are we good with that line?
And which line were you finding most, it was the books and info resources on, which was object code 640, I believe.
640. And surprisingly, in that line right now, I think there's over $100,000, which kind of surprises me since we're in December.
In that 640 line?
Yeah.
Is that that's about right?
Generally, 640 is textbooks and materials like that.
Yeah.
We've had a bit of a shift from textbooks to, in some cases, info
Right.
resources. Let me just check and see what that project would do.
I think for the benefit of the public who doesn't have the advantage of this summary sheet, that the total default budget as it stands now is $71,370,606.
No, that's a proposed one.
Proposed,
That's what
right.
adds up to, yes.
That's without making any adjustments for
Revenue.
revenue.
We can certainly take another look unless anyone else has a question. Did you have 1,200, I think?
You want to go to line 1,200?
You're looking at prior year adopted of 9,090,145, increasing 247,583, decreasing 36,973.
Right, so that default goes up to 9,300,755.
So
So
1,200 is
we've
special
moved.
education.
Yeah, we've moved to another department.
Yeah, we've moved to another larger function.
So in that line, we had staff increases, contractual increases. One of the bigger obligations that we have really are in the tuition private line. So over $500,000 in itself, based on reasonable estimates by our special education and student services departments. Was that a factor in that decision?
That was a factor. I mean, we should be going off contracted numbers, not estimates in a default budget.
So if we don't have a contract for a placement, we don't fund the placement? But
If we don't have a contract for the placement, I don't know how we can put it into a default budget,
By definition.
by definition.
So if we know that we're gonna have a certain need in the ensuing year for placements out of district or whatever the case may be, your thought would be that, well, we don't need to include those in the budget because we don't have a contract for them. So we have a contract just running through this year for a particular placement. That placement would actually come out of the budget for next year, despite the fact that we'd be legally required to continue on with that placement?
If you're legally required, you would have a contract. So it's been pointed out by people in this room so far, you can only do what you can contractually.
Well, actually not. Because if you actually read that whole sentence, it's reduced or increased as the case may be by debt service contracts and other obligations previously incurred or mandated by law. So the special ed people say, we have to continue on with this. Whether or not we have a contract for it today, for next year.
And you're guesstimating. This is a default
not
budget.
guesstimating.
This is a default budget. I just heard a guesstimate. This is a default budget.
So with obligations with IEP that
Mhm.
we have
Mhm.
to
So again,
have these services.
so when
we don't have
as
enough
Mrs. Green just pointed out, just for the people at home, again, this number is 71,370,000, so close to 71,400,000. The district ran last year at 67.2. The district ran last year at 67.2.
Which is
4.2 million less.
Which is irrelevant to the special ed
It's,
program.
it,
And
it's relevant to
obligations we
running the
have
Timberlane
to
School
those
District.
students.
It's relevant to running, this is now $4.2 million more than you spent last year. That's where it's relevant. That's why I mentioned
You know,
that.
Texas just got in trouble trying to throttle back special ed.
We're not trying to throw back special ed.
This is not
We're-
throttling
we're-
back
we're-
either.
You're saying
we're-
that there's not a multi-year contract for a student with an IEP.
It's a bottom line
Some
budget.
placement- Yeah,
It's a bottom line. budget.
Bottom line budget is
Exactly.
4.2 million you spent last year.
it's mandated, but that's something that's incurred or mandated by
Okay.
law.
I don't disagree with it. The good news is
there
you can
you
have $4.2 million you spent last year.
So that's 2 years, though, right?
You can call it 2 years, call it 3. This just ended June 30, 2017. So we already know about other stuff in the works. So, but this is over $4 million, $4 million.
And
What did you say we were currently at? Didn't you say 69?
69 is the estimate the superintendent is estimating that he's spending at right now. So that's now you're,
So
I'm just working off actuals, those actuals just ended almost 6 months ago. So Dr. Metzel's estimating 69 million, so even at 69 million, now it's 71.4.
It's too bad.
But it's more than you spent by a couple $1 million versus I can understand people getting excited if all of a sudden we're spending 69 and now next year I want to give you 66. Then I can understand people that there's a math issue here. There's more money here. That's what this is. That's all this total is. Now,
In 2017, we expended 8.397 million of that budget
In that line, in those lines.
in those lines. That was our expenditure this year, and that just closed out.
Right.
2018 budget was 9,090,000. The 2019 is 9.2 million. So we're going up from an expenditure of 8.8 million to this current year is 90.9, or 9.09 million, up to 9.23.
so we'd
In
be,
the-
we'd be
the-
covering essentially staff increases, just salary increases,
But not student need increases.
but not the tuition.
Tuition issues from this year,
Sorry?
tuition issues that we have right now.
Correct, yeah, we're up against the
Okay.
budget for this department on placements.
Right now.
so, again, it's worth mentioning, this is a default budget. This is a process of coming up with a number. The number is higher than we've been spending. That's a fact. So it doesn't represent this $2, $3, or $4 million cut. No, by the way, now that you've said that, and I commend Kim for her work, but this is a process going through, looking at items, as you mentioned a few earlier, which I was happy to hear you say that I honestly don't look at the default budget, quite honestly, as the proposed budget of as I mentioned in public meetings before. This district has a very interesting way of going about it before your time. That it's they will come in high, then go back and forth, and over millions of dollars. So obviously, it's a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of unnecessary work for the people like yourself, people who work with you, people who put these numbers together, and then watch these things go up or down in the millions versus in the hundreds. So I believe what the attempt here is, what we're trying to do here is come up with a number that defaults, that keeps the doors open in that unlikely event that a budget doesn't pass. Usually the budget passes.
So if we look into line 1,200 on the salaries, 1,200, 111, you'll note that there were, this is your number, not mine, that the 2018 budget, it was 361,946. You're only requesting 278,217. Or, wait, I have to,
Draft 2.
that's in draft 2, but I did go back and add draft 3 into those numbers. I don't think there's not a cut, I don't think. There was a cut on that line in draft 2.
In draft 2, there was a cut.
In draft 2, there was a cut, I think in draft 3, we don't know because they are not identified.
I'm agreeing.
Yes, but in draft 2, that was. What?
So-
Thank you.
So if the budget committee has cut or if they've directed that a certain amount be cut, that's the number that we use. Is that the philosophy, just for the benefit of the board? It would be good to be able to get that.
Not really.
'Cause I've proposed 361,946,
Right,
which is last year's
361,946.
appropriation. Right.
Yeah, I did not make any cut to the administrative salaries and special programs.
Oh,
no.
okay.
No cuts there. Sorry, I should not have looked, that was the draft 2 budget. No, from your default, there was no adjustment on line 111.
So would the primary?
The primary driver of 1,200 would be line 561.
561, 564, tuition's private.
Which is private tuition,
Yeah.
Okay.
their own placements, yeah.
And I think that certainly when we're looking at it, we do look at it as a bottom line, but
Yeah.
certainly that's an area that I will tell you, I think is fairly well budgeted. I think we have transportation, we don't have a contract as of yet. At some
Correct.
point, we will have a contract.
Correct.
In speaking with our consultant, it didn't seem that my estimate was unreasonable for where we anticipate those costs to come in. But the board can do as it chooses. Those additional funds are not a lot of additional placements outside of the district. So how you handle them is up to you.
What are you saying, that there's transportation built into that private tuition line? What do you mean?
No. When we look at the total increase for the special education function relating to tuitions and outplacement tuitions, we have flexibility sometimes in our transportation line, which is a 519 object code. When we look at this as a whole, what I'm discussing now are the private tuitions. However, the private tuitions themselves, I think, are fairly well budgeted as proposed by the special education department. These really aren't areas that we can shirk legal obligations or find benefits of economies of scale. I'll put it out there. You vote as you'd like.
Can I add just a little clarity, having some experience with special education and managing that budget? What we have now this year is above what we had anticipated. And we are very close in terms of our budget in special ed here because of unanticipated placements, students who have moved in, quite expensive, in terms of some of the placements. It's really not prudent to not roll that over. We do not have year-to-year-to-year contracts. The contracts are done it's not a multi-year. We do them once a year. They're reevaluated. They're usually based on an obligation that we have with the IEP and the placement team. So it really is, in my opinion, prudent to kind of look at what your numbers were, Mr. Dowd, because I think you've talked to the special ed directors and you know what is actually being run this year, which was not anticipated. You don't want to cut yourself short in at least this area.
Okay.
Tuitions.
I would just like to say that in 2016, we underexpended the whole special ed department by $750,000. And in 2017, we underexpended by $455,000. That's almost $500,000. We don't know where we're running now in terms of expenditures of 2018. But the 2019 requested, again, I only have draft 2 with me for some reason, but that's up by $144,000 when we're chronically underexpending. By $750,000 one year. I mean,
Well,
that's a lot.
Miss-
Around that 564 line.
Mrs. Sherman.
So, I hear what you're
1200
saying,
budget.
Donna, that, but if
6,305.
the same children with the same
this
IEP
is the
needs, et
tuition
cetera,
private.
were what we had in 15, and what we had in 16, and what we had in 17, and now, but they're not. It's always this moving target. Kids move out, you anticipate them as being here, then they leave, you get a little extra money. And then someone else, now, here we are now, we're running pretty close. We've got influx of students that require,
It was
by obligation of their IEPs, this kind of money being spent on their education. And every time we
Guys, that's what we're
negotiate
talking about.
another agreement with an outplacement school, the figure doesn't go
think
down.
it's
They don't
the,
charge us less, right, in this world. So you've got to
We're just
plan a
gonna stay
little
flat.
bit for that. And it's not the same kids year after year. It's constantly changing.
And the plans change.
And the plans change, and the needs change.
That's right.
Okay.
And we have fewer students.
So,
So why is the special ed budget going up every year?
I'll say it again. Just because we have fewer students, doesn't mean those fewer students have fewer needs. I got applause for
They
that
should
last
have
time.
equal needs.
No,
again. Jeff?
don't have the same needs.
This board will probably be seeing a budget transfer because we have a placement that we have no budget for at the moment. So when we speak to how we're doing this year and where the figures are this year before increases going into next year, that's it. We're trying to find the money, do it now. We're up against it. And so when we go through this, if it's fair, it's fair. I just want to be fair about it. And that's one area that I do have some concern, and I'll share that with you.
Okay.
591 is too much, or, that's not something that the board is inclined to, acknowledge as a legal obligation or budget as part of legal obligation. So be it. We've had the discussion.
Okay.
And that line is up by 210,000 from the previous year,
That could be
from the
one
prior
placement.
year adopted budget.
And again, we have
One placement.
a placement that we don't have the budget for. We're up against.
It would require a line transfer. Right.
Okay.
I'm not sure any of you realize how expensive it is for these outplays. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of hundreds and thousands, in some cases, of money. So when you say it's up 210,000, that could be 1.5 placements.
I understand
It's
that. so
frighteningly
it's not-
expensive.
It's not that I don't understand it.
We have an obligation.
So how would you like to handle the budget? Are we going to go through and discuss and propose changes? Are we going to go through and accept lines? What would be the best way to keep track of of where we're at on these things? Or is it just a bottom line? Let's take a look
I
and.
mean, it's a bottom line budget.
It's a bottom line, and again, see, to me, you could spend multiple meetings going over multiple line items.
You spent a lot of time meeting with attorneys before you even looked at the line
That's
items.
right, that's right.
That was a lot of fun.
You're right.
And I mean, can I just say something though before, just kind of to speak to Jeff about this, just on, it's a bottom line 71,370 in terms of this. I did not reduce any of the fund transfer lines, but clearly those should have reductions based on the actuals on, I'm looking at line 5221, 930. The actuals for last year were 1.348, so that was a drop of 277. I know we're dropping more students this year, so I cannot, I don't think I could justify that 1.625 number, and I did not adjust that. The other number is the federal projects. I know it was down $166,000 last year. Indications are that Title I funding is decreasing again this year. Is that correct? How much would that be? Do you know a number?
I don't have allocations for the upcoming school year.
It's just you're aware that it's gonna be decreasing. It's been decreasing, so.
Been decreasing.
And then, the PAC number I did adjust down, because I adjusted that down based on the proposal of BudCom, which was 45,000. So, even though this budget reflects some changes, it does not reflect any changes to the fund transfer lines.
So again, Jeff, so last year's approved budget was 71.5? That sound right?
71,759, yeah.
You're
Operating
you're
is
including,
71,759.
you're including the 250 for the cap reserve.
Correct.
So the actual operating budget was 71.5.
71,750.
But the 750, the other 250 was a 250. So the actual budget was 71.5 last
Okay.
year. So what we're talking about here is approximately $100,000 less than last year's approved budget. I just will share with you, because I kept it on for this very reason. I just had a brief exchange of text with the superintendent, who is obviously watching this. Shouldn't surprise anybody. I'm sure. I'm glad he's watching it. He wanted to let me know that the spend rate that he's doing is closer to 70 million. That's an estimate, and that's fine. And we've had multiple conversations. That's why I am personally comfortable being above the spend rate. Keep in mind, this is a default budget. This is not the proposed budget. This is to keep the doors open. Your voters, not 9 people, your voters will come in. There's about 30,000 people in the district, and you get about a 50% voter turnout when it comes to school budgets here. You know, people weigh in very heavily on their local taxes. I have just, living in this area for over 30 years, I have never seen them turn Timberlane down. The voters in this district buy what they want. That's what they've been doing since I've been around here. So I just want to make sure that we're putting a reasonable default, so in that situation that doesn't
Well,
pass.
speaking of keeping the doors open, I will have you reflect on this, because I don't know the correct answer to this. But obviously, we've had the discussion on our allocations between operating and capital. And right now, I understand that it's a very easy, backhanded approach to eliminate anything from site improvement or building improvement services. And the voters are definitely going to be able to go for it if we have to go back to them, which is an ugly proposition, and ask for $200,000 for a failed septic. And if these are the concerns that I have in stripping that capital out. Because whether we can take this number at the end and formulate a budget post-vote and continue to move between capital and operating, I'm not comfortable spending from operating on capital improvements. There are none contemplated here. I'll put that out there for consideration. That is a concern that I have, and you mentioned keeping the doors open.
And that's a concern for, I understand that concern. So you're saying the 4,100 lines are all apportioned based on EPV versus ADM, correct?
Typically.
Typically.
Yeah.
So, and I could see where that would be an issue, and in terms of, again, it's a bottom line budget. To me, and this is why I mentioned revenue and fund transfers, I think it would be more prudent to decrease the fund transfer lines and put some of this money back into the 41 to 4,900 lines because of that issue that you would have. Even though it is, we are within our rights to take those lines down.
Sure.
Did everybody follow that?
Yep.
Okay.
Peter?
Thank you. I'd like to get back to the 1,200 to 1,299 special programs line. Right. In the interest of moving this along, I'm making a motion that in the default budget, the total 1,200 to 1,299 line be 9,919,000. Should I do that right? Sorry. 9,983,000. I'm just rounding at that point, even. To take into account that the 36,973 roughly that Kim found as one possible one-time appropriations, but also to recognize the fact that we, whether or not we have a contract for 18 months out, we have to provide that tuition, private tuition money. So let's leaving that in there.
Okay, so is it 9,983,000? Is that your number?
Yes.
Okay, because that's way higher than the 2019 requested.
I'm looking at this default being 9,900,000, as Jeff presented, 9,929,000. And I just decreased that by 36,000. Should have maybe done some 37.
Well, it's peculiar because why is the,
Well, we shouldn't be discussing this without a second. Sorry, I apologize, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Thank you.
okay, I don't know why the default ask is much higher than the 2019 requested. I don't understand that at all.
You're looking at a draft 2, Mrs.
I am, but the
Green.
only
And we have a
difference-
draft 3 that was finalized by the Budget
Yeah,
Committee.
I never got the draft 3. We never got, did anybody
Draft
get the
3
draft
added
three?
$500,000 to that line to bring it up to 9,733,651.
So that's still different from 9.9.
It still differs by 196,074.
Yeah. Did we ever get draft 3, a hard copy of draft 3?
No,
Because I never did.
no, I printed it off online.
Well, again, motion been made and seconded, and as Mrs. Green's pointing out, this is now higher than combination last year's budget and then also the proposed budget this year.
So, Mr. Chairman, could we get a hard copy of draft 3, please, right now? That would be very helpful.
Yeah.
I don't know who has that. Do you have that, Jeff?
If they'll print it from here, be helpful.
What is it, 17 pages?
Yeah,
Yeah.
16, 17 pages.
Each.
I'll print it upstairs if I can get it to go.
Thank you.
Can we take a biology break here?
It's good. I was going to say, by the way, I'm glad you people don't have school tomorrow, okay? No, because I will have to talk to Mr. Richards about how to single doubling up here, because see how that works in this room, I have no idea, because look, this thing's going to go on for quite some time here. So, we need some sleeping bags and cots. Yeah, let's have a brief recess here so we can get some.
Jeff, are you printing 12 copies?
Thank you. Okay, we're back. It's 10 past 10. Jeff has now given all the board members this is revision 3. Is that what this is?
Draft 3.
Draft 3?
This is the draft copy approved by the Budget Committee at their last meeting.
Okay. Okay. And before we had that break, there was conversation on what line was that?
There was a motion on the floor, correct, on line 1200 to amend that?
1,200 to 1,299.
1,200, 1,299, the total.
Yeah.
Should be 9,983,000.
So we're back to discussion on that, I think,
Oh, I see, yeah.
which is higher than the requested 2019 requested budget. The request on the budget was 9,733, and you're proposing 9,983.
That's
I believe
a
you'll-
difference of 682,000 from
The
current
2018, but from the current default, yeah.
yeah.
So that would be approximately the 591,000 in the 564 object code, and there were some staffing cuts proposed in that operating budget on the 111 object code line.
In that operating budget, but in the default budget that we're looking at right now, there are no staffing cuts in that.
Correct. So really, it would be the, I think the 591 that you'd be off primarily. So
Right, it's only the it's only the,
111, right?
right,
And really, it's a 564.
it's the 564 line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so people, I want to
Oh,
clarify
gosh.
something for people out here that are listening. Well, two things. I'm sorry, can you grant me 2 minutes of leeway?
Why not?
Last time I made a motion to cut 12 FTEs. That represents 8 positions. I think there was some confusion about that, whether I was motioning to cut 12 positions or 8 positions. It was 8 positions, which equates to 12 full-time equivalents, just based on, you don't know how much you're gonna have to pay somebody and so on and so forth. And there were some people have alluded to the fact that those were deans and principals. That was not the case. There were only 2 lines that were from the school administration. Where did I come up with this? Because people have said, why did she just randomly come up with this 8 number? I looked at draft 2 of the budget. Mr. Dowd, correct me if I'm wrong, but there were specific lines identified in that budget as to positions that would be cut, that was 8 positions. Is that not correct?
In order to accomplish the 69.6.
Correct.
Those were peppered throughout the functions.
Correct.
Said they
but
were just placeholders.
Well,
not
no.
positions.
You
That's
you
what
are
he said.
calling out, but they are specific. By looking at those line numbers, you can specifically tell which positions those are, can you not? To some degree.
To some degree, certainly. that
Yes,
generally
certainly,
would be the-
especially if you've only got one position within a line.
Well, we have to, I can't put
Again.
them in one place.
Right.
Where do I put them? Where would I put them? I can't put them in,
Well,
I can do, if you wanted to cut a number of administrators, a number of teachers, I can hit 1,100, 112, generally, and then worry about the location and all that.
Right. No, I understand
You
that.
pepper it
but-
through the
But there was
functions, it gets
obviously
thin.
some, so if people are interested, the last time, at the superintendent's request, I did not call out those positions. But I do want you to be aware that that's what I was basing those 8 positions on, and anybody, it's public documents, could go in and look at those line numbers. So I'll go back to the default. One other thing I want to say for the audience. In this proposed default budget, as we're working on it right now, there are only, other than based on what the administration gave to our school board and what we're working off now, there are only two positions that have been removed from this particular default budget. They are the positions that equate to the salaries of the dean and the senior dean that were eliminated and moved into other positions. It's not, that's the only salary lines that, when working through this summary, that I have removed. So I just want people to understand it as we're going through and talking salaries, because I'm not sure that's clear. Any other adjustments and
Peter?
salary lines were made by
Say something?
Jeff, right?
Peter, do you want to say
Yeah,
something?
just going back to the topic at hand, the motion at hand. In my haste to get a motion out quickly, I made a math error. I'd like to correct it if the person who seconded the motion would allow that. Instead of taking the 9,929,000 figure and subtracting the 37,000, almost $37,000 of one-time appropriations you mentioned, I added it, sorry. So the number we're discussing really should be 9,800,000, I'd like to amend it to 9,892,000. So that's 9929 that is in Jeff's proposal, less the 37 that Kim, you identified earlier.
What's your number?
9,892,000.
892,000.
Right. That's what I'm proposing we have for the roll-up of the
1,200 line.
line.
Well, you have to withdraw your motion.
I did, and
Okay.
No, it's fine.
and now I'm, and the second was okay with it, and I'm resubmitting it. At 9,892,000.
I still don't understand why it's more than the 2019 requested. I still don't understand that.
I don't either.
By
Why is it more?
I'm basing it on what I'm hearing from the finance people and from the assistant superintendent about what our needs are and have been identified for that year.
So typically, the default budget, as I understand it, has not gone, it's the appropriations move forward, right?
Right.
Plus or minus.
Correct.
And I really was not aware that if we're able to find some efficiencies on the operating budget, good, bad, or otherwise, that those automatically went over to the default budget. And I think that's what you're saying. I don't understand why it's different, right? Why it's more?
No, I'm trying to understand Mr. Belo's psychology, because the 219 requested is 9,733,000. So he's throwing another 140,000 at it, and I don't understand it.
I don't either.
140.
I'm taking Mr. Dowd's proposed roll-up of the default budget for the 1,200 lines, okay, which is 9,929,000 change. And I'm subtracting from it 37,000, which is the number that I'm taking at face value that Kim found is probably a one-time appropriation. In doing so, that makes us right.
Mr. Beal, can I just verify that number with you is 9,892,000?
Yes.
Thank you.
I still don't understand the math whatsoever. Dr. Farah, are you understanding this math? I don't understand it
Yes,
at
I
all.
understand it now.
Okay, so explain it to me.
Past my bedtime. What he did was he took Jeff's proposed default budget for line 1,200.
Right, 9,090,000.
No.
No,
No,
you're
no,
looking
no.
at the wrong doc. This is
929,000.
Oh,
9,992,000.
And then he took off
Sorry.
the
Right.
36,973 and then came up with that number.
Okay.
Which is still above the proposed 2019 budget.
Right. So,
Can we call the question on this?
I think that's a great idea. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor of increasing that budget line item? Opposed? Motion. Okay, this, we opposed, 5 opposed, 4.
so what
Motion
was the
fails.
vote?
5-4.
4-5.
4-5.
4-5. Motion fails.
I just want to make sure that I have the list
Sure.
of 5 who voted against it. Okay. Just give me 1 minute. So Mrs. Doobie, Mr. Spiro, Mrs. Green, Dr. Farah, and Mr. Boyle, correct?
Correct.
So I'd like to make a motion that we reduce the appropriation for the food service from,
Wait. I thought we were going down line by line.
Yeah, now we're jumping around. I think we're doing it by department,
Well,
right?
well, we're doing it by, yeah.
Line,
by
yes.
this.
Just trying to do it by, so, do you have consensus of what's happening in special ed for default budget?
Right now, using the document that I passed out, it's $9,300,755.
We haven't really voted on that.
No, you had a motion that failed, so that consensus right now is that's the number.
This is not a voted on
We
number.
didn't voted on it. This is yours, this is your page here.
Correct,
And this is
so,
Jeff's
okay, it's not a
thing.
consensus,
So there's
but we
different
have a
numbers.
failed motion.
Correct, at that point, so.
And no motion to make anything.
That's right. That's right.
all right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the default budget at $71,370,606.
I'll second that.
Now we're going for the whole package.
Well,
And I'm shocked on it that you wouldn't want to go line by line here. I'm really surprised. You've always wanted to dig in. Kim's done all this work to dig in, and now you just want to jump to the bottom?
Line by line was completely unnecessary. I had to change my whole system to get the report to come out that way.
well, let me just,
I did use your line by line.
What's that?
I did use your line by line.
Oh,
did.
well.
You did use
It was important. It was not a wasted effort, thank you.
No, it's a valuable piece of information for Kim.
Give me that, Mrs. Green, can you give me that figure again? Thank you, 71,759,450.
71,370,000.
606, thank you.
okay, motion made and seconded. Now, discussion. Dr. Farrow.
I'm going to propose an amendment to that motion, given the fact that this budget significantly reduces the 4,100 through 4,900 lines. My amendment, hopefully this makes sense. So I'm going to propose to amend your motion to reduce the overall fund transfer lines, 5220, 5221 by 200,000, 5222 to 5229 by 200,000.
Yep.
Everybody follow that?
No.
I'm just gonna need those
So you're,
fund
both
lines again.
lines you're reducing by 200,000 each?
Yes, with the intent of moving that money into the 4,000 line, sorry.
The same bottom number.
It's the same bottom number, but it's important to have
Just
money
moving it.
into the 4,000 lines.
You're just changing the line, you're not changing the bottom number.
No, I'm not changing the bottom number, I'm just moving money around in the lines. Or do we want to do that now, or should we just stick with the original motion?
I think you should stick with the original motion.
Okay,
You're
let's
talking
stick
about
with
a
the
bottom
original
number.
motion then.
Can you tell me who seconded the original motion?
I did.
Thank you.
Okay. No further discussion? All those in favor? I'm sorry? Opposed? Motion carries. Did you get the vote?
Yes, I did.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dow?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just going, you can go on. You've taken a vote on that, and that's fine. So, in that vote, I want a clarification. That motion was just to reduce the fund transfers.
No?
No.
No?
That motion
It's the
was,
whole bottom line.
That was the bottom line.
Default budget
Oh.
is 71,370.
Okay.
So that budget is.
Which would be very difficult to operate on.
Well, you know,
Well, my questions are, you followed a formula, correct? To come up with your default numbers, or the default numbers you felt were fair and honest. And you failed that, I wrote this question down so I'd ask it the way I wanted it. you've gone through everything as the business manager, areas you feel were one-time, non-recurring, with the number you came up with. Kim feels comfortable with what she's come up with.
I think the important thing, though.
I need yes or no answer. Did you feel, are you comfortable with the number that you had proposed in your default, which was 73?
Yes, I am comfortable with that number, and based on the direction that I've received from the board relative to certain things like one-time expenditures and that sort of thing, certainly that number is there for some discussion.
Right.
Okay.
I still don't know what a one-time expenditure is as determined by the board.
Doesn't matter, and again, as far as, there's been a lot of conversation about this, and this number we just passed is within $200,000 of where the budget committee is. Okay?
Of the budget, not the.
Of the proposed budget.
Yeah,
Which is
okay.
irrelevant.
Which is irrelevant, but it is relevant to the voters. It's irrelevant on the term default versus proposed. But I don't want people looking at this thing going, holy cow, wow, this is crazy.
Well,
You're now within $200,000 of where 18 individual members of the general public representing these 4 towns came up with. That's where we are.
But it's not really based on the RSA and.
It is based on the
Yes, it
RSA.
is. It
You know what? I'll tell you what, if you feel you want to challenge me in court, knock yourself out. I've spent enough time on this subject matter with the lawyers. We're well within legal rights to do this. Well within legal rights.
or maybe within I'm not saying we're not legally okay to do that, it's just.
Well, if
that the
you're against an
numbers-
RSA, that's against the law. An RSA is a law.
I'm not
Am I right?
saying- I'm not saying that we're not legally okay to have done what we did, but I'm concerned we won't have enough money to operate
And I'm-
this district on that lower figure.
Okay. And I guess, and I'm basing it on what's been happening in the past 12 months here. And number one, and number two, more importantly, if this is such a concern, the voters are going to make the final decision.
Yep.
I got a lot of faith in the voters. To the best of my knowledge, I don't recall the voters turning the district down here, not in the last 30 years. I don't recall the voters leaving us hanging.
I don't recall the voters ever voting for, did the fund transfer go through for the capital? Do we have no capital in this
She
budget?
doesn't- she took that back.
Bottom line.
No, but,
So we have no capital. So
hang
when the
on, no,
voters
no,
go
wait,
and
wait,
vote-
wait, wait.
They're voting.
We have no
That's not
capital.
true.
No.
Really.
That's not true, because all the replacement equipment
Yeah, no
comes out of capital as well.
You have 71.4 million to do with what you please.
No, I want to make a
Yes,
motion.
yes, you do.
I want
You
to
can-
make a.
you can move with it.
I want to make a motion.
Yeah, she's got to.
I want to make the motion that I was going to make earlier, that we reduce the fund transfer line 5221 by 200,000.
What is that?
And why are we doing that for?
Yeah, what does that do to those two lines?
What it does is to the 5220 line, it brings it down to where it actually was based on our 2017 revenues. That's what it does.
So if we get a new contract, we only have a certain amount to spend on that, or?
No. This is the fund transfer for the food service
Yeah,
revenue.
yeah.
What has to happen is, we get revenue from food service, but it is put into the budget, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not trying to play the budget man. We put it into the budget as an expense, and that gets offset by the revenue. But I can see by looking at last year, and the fact also that we are dropping in students again, is that revenue was overestimated, which means the fund transfer line was also overestimated. Is that correct?
So, again, the line was overestimated and the fund transfer line was overestimated.
Well, no, the revenue was overestimated.
In the budget.
Which means
In the
that the
budget.
fund transfer line was
Correct.
too high.
Correct.
So I'm bringing that down in line with what the expected revenue would be for that line.
And putting the money.
And moving the money into the 4,000 lines for capital.
And moving the money into the
Into the 4,000.
four 100s to 900.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I haven't finished my amendment.
200,000.
Oh, I have not finished my amendment.
okay.
Okay.
Well, it's not an amendment because it's a motion.
Oh, it's a motion, sorry. I
Wrong
was stuck on
motion.
the list.
I
Hang
just want to
on.
make sure I have it correct. Right now, you said that you reduce the overall fund transfer lines 5220 through 5221, and you want to reduce that line by 200,000 and move the money to,
No, what, no, so that's, I also want to reduce line 5222 to 5229
Yep.
by 200,000.
So I'm gonna take 200 here, 200 there, yep.
And move those monies to lines 4100 through 4900 as the business administrator sees fit.
So adding 400,000 for all that stuff.
I mean, I'm fine with a higher number there. I'm,
Yeah, but based on your studies, Kim, you feel that 200,000 and 200,000 from those lines
let me,
won't cut us too short?
hang on, let me look, let me find the exact numbers.
The difference between what is budgeted in the 18-19 budget for food service transfer is $1,257,000.
Yep.
That's a difference of $368,000 from what's currently listed in the default budget. So we can take as much as $368,000 out of the food transfer.
Okay, so,
But I don't understand where the 200,000 comes from other special revenue. I don't know what's in those, that lines, that
that's
category.
federal grants. In there, and I already know that last year Title I funding went down to 166,000, and we're also anticipating another drop this year.
We don't know how much though, but
I
we're
don't know.
thinking,
That's-
so could we say 150 just to be on the safe side with that one?
So you're looking to do 350 and 150 to bring the
Yeah.
other line up.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, just change 200 and 200, change it to 350 and 150.
So now we're.
So transfer to decrease line 5220, 5221 by 350,000, okay?
350?
Yep,
350,000.
Yes.
And to decrease 5222 to 5229 by 150,000.
So now that's a total of
500,000.
100,000.
And to move those, move that sum of money to lines
4,000.
4,100 to 4,900.
Yep.
Which is what?
Cap is up.
Facilities
what-
acquisition and construction.
Facilities acquisition and construction. So that gives 500,000 into that, those lines. So that's my motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Oh, could I just say that I think it should be building improvement services rather than facilities acquisition and.
Well, it's just what the name of the line is.
Because,
The name of the whole.
because.
Whole
there's-
function.
It's almost,
That's not what the
Money's
motion
put in
says.
the building.
removed 507, almost 600,000 from that line.
That's right.
So it would be nice to put that money back in that line. Whereas there's nothing budgeted for other facilities acquisitions and construction.
Yes, there is. There's money in 4,200.
That's site improvement. What-
That's site
I'm-
improvements.
I guess I'm looking at the.
Are you looking at the proposed
Prior
budget?
year adopted budget, prior year adopted budget from, oh, this is the default, the
Yeah,
prior
you're
year
looking
default
all wrong.
budget.
I see.
Oh, gosh, I'm getting, okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the 2019, you make the 2019 requested for line 4,300 is only $49,000.
Right.
So I would guess that when if this motion passes, that Mr. Dow will put 49,000 into that line and the rest into the other.
Well, then we should make it more explicit.
Want me
Is
to
that-
add on to that motion?
So do you want me to read what we have?
No, I don't need the whole, can you just read, like, to I don't have a second on this motion yet, do I?
Yeah, Brian's second.
I second.
Oh, jeez.
Want me to withdraw my second?
Withdraw your second.
Please, I'll withdraw my
Okay.
second.
Why don't you, could you bear with me, read back the motion, and then I will tell you where it's going to change.
That's much better.
Could I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
Maybe we can save some of that money and just lower the default by 100,000, another 100,000.
No,
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 I wouldn't do that.
no.
I will point out that as of right now, we still have about 1.8 in mandated increases we need to deal with. The budget passed by the Budget Committee did contemplate at 200,000, well, no, 71.7, 71.3, 400,000, it still contemplated a number of staffing reductions, even at that level, and really trimmed down on the capital expenditures as well, to levels
To
that.
zero.
Well, no, not to zero, but certainly, we talk about forward progress and new initiatives. We're really looking at, are we going to be able to attend to any emergencies that we have
No.
to keep our buildings running? And that's at the 71,759.
Mm-hmm.
You just put it in 5,600.
So, yeah, I'll just put it all in for, you're right. Okay,
Put it in
so
5,600.
could you
Building
just
improvements.
read that?
Okay.
You made Dr. Farah made a motion to reduce lines 5220 to 5221 by 350,000, to further decrease lines 5222 to 5229 by 150,000, moving the total sum of 500,000 to lines.
Let's move it to line 4,600. Because from there it can be moved around, just to make the motion a little simpler.
4,600.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's the
Yeah.
the
Yep.
simplest way to make that motion.
Do you have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Before proving that on the capital side, just because I'm not familiar in terms of the technology initiatives and the things that we need, are any of those included in the numbers, or have you reduced them or taken them out from what you proposed here? I haven't really been able to dig into that, I know. Without the object code, I don't know what.
I know, I'm looking for, sorry, give me
No,
a second
it's-
here.
it's
I'm
fine.
looking
I'm-
for my detailed notes.
She's doing that, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
If we move that over to the 4,600, at any point in time, we need something for something else, required services or one that we need, can we take that back out of that line as a board?
If it would be on the capital side of the house.
To be on the capital side.
So it'd be operating and then you have the capital, and so this.
So not if we needed it for a special teacher.
No.
Correct.
No, but I mean, if we
Only
need,
for the building, say we needed a generator or something like that.
Something.
whatever. Okay.
Building or equipment.
currently where it is now, in the transfer.
Something unexpected.
No. No, if it's in the transfer, we typically wouldn't touch that at all. That's offset by revenue, so that really fouls things up. To be pulling that out.
Is that gonna foul things up, pulling it out now?
Yes or no?
If it's a fund transfer, it'd be offset by revenue. And if it's pulled out, then there's no offset on the revenue side.
So the answer is yes.
So the answer is yes.
Well, it doesn't really foul things up. Okay. But it would increase the
could.
tax burden, or the tax bill,
That's right.
That will directly increase the tax bill?
potentially.
The burden.
Depends on where revenue is budgeted to go along with that.
So what happens right now is we're overestimating revenue. And when we overestimate revenue, that means that when we don't get it, we're gonna have to get that money from the taxpayers. So
Right.
by overestimating revenue, we know we're guaranteed to increase taxes.
Okay, the other way?
Well,
And
if
the
we
other
have,
way?
if we have 1.6 in fund transfers, we estimate 1.6 in revenue to offset that.
Right.
So that revenue does not come from the taxpayers, that revenue comes from the food service
Government.
operation.
But the issue is, we already know that by the best estimates, we're getting 1,257,000 in food service revenue. And what the budget is showing is considerably more, 1,625,000 in anticipated revenue. So that's essentially saying, we're gonna get more, then we think we are really, our best guess is telling us we're gonna get more, so therefore, we're gonna have to go to the taxpayer at the end.
No, because there's no expense. If we don't receive the revenue, we're not experiencing expense.
But we're using this anticipated revenue to lower the tax rate, and then when the revenue doesn't come in, then we have to increase the tax appropriation, not the rate, the tax
Right,
appropriation.
not the rate.
It's a direct offset.
I'm looking at the.
I get your point, but it's a direct offset, so.
Looking for ed equipment.
Okay. So we can get back on this thing here. You looking for something, Pam?
Oh, he
What-
was
what-
just
you had a
asking,
question?
I know there's at least, that replacement equipment and things like that were not zero
Right.
affected
And
here.
those are capital,
Even though they're under, say, like a 1,200 line, is there capital under some of
Necessarily
those?
capital. Repairs on all capital.
Well, the replacement equipment is capital.
Even if it's not under a
Replacement?
4,000 line, how is?
New equipment is
Jeff?
capital.
So typically, we look at certain object codes, and I look at certain function codes. So we could go on the assumption that everything under 4,200 is going to be a capital improvement.
Mhm.
Everything on a 4,600 will be a capital improvement. But there are certain function codes object codes, that we look at as well, and those are treated as capital as well. New equipment, 733, 734, 737, 738. Then 4,200 in its entirety, 4,600 in its entirety, 5110, 5120, bond interest, and any capital reserve transfers. So I capture all of those when bringing them over. However, typically your replacement equipment is replacement equipment. It's not an offset to a septic system, for example, at 200,000 or 300,000.
Dan?
I actually, since we're talking about that line, I have a question for Kim, I guess. Did you reduce the Chromebooks that we bought?
You'd have to tell me what line that's in.
1,100, 738.
The Chromebooks that are in the CIP
That we approved for a 5-year plan, or a plan.
are part
to-
of the 5-year
to keep
technology
going
plan.
forward, yeah.
Looks like they zeroed all of that out.
No,
Well, that's
1,100,
why I gotta ask.
738?
Yeah.
That line was only reduced by $30,000.
Okay, so in that,
That's
those
still-
Chromebooks for the
it's
100,000
Still there.
is still
I'd
there.
have to go back
Well,
further to.
if that's 1,200, 738.
1,100.
1,100,
1,100, okay.
738.
That's where it is.
Yep.
I had to find it, but that's where the Chromebooks
No, that was
are
only
located.
And what about this 45,000 for student laptops, Danny?
I think that's the same line.
All out of the same line?
It's still 738, yeah.
So that was 145,000, they cut to 70,000?
What?
Somebody cut it to 70,000? School board didn't.
We're talking operating budget, right? Yeah.
1,100, 738. Oh, so you're looking at draft 3 is what you're.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm comparing draft 3, 2018 budget number. I'm not looking at draft 3, I'm looking at the default, his default that he gave me.
I think it's 11:15. We'll vote on a default budget. I think we move this meeting along here. There's no sense in,
Again, I can tell you 1,100, 738. In this proposed default, my number was 214, 739. It was a decrease of 30, but I can't.
And that could have been like the
I really,
administrator
I'd have
stuff.
to go.
That's 30 as administrators' laptops and stuff.
We did have a number of 30 in the 1,200, 738, which was the special ed equipment, coincidentally. And we also had, I included special ed, new equipment, because we don't tend to always get recurring special education students.
There was no decrease to 1,200, 738 either.
Okay.
I believe there's a motion on the floor, seconded. Then we're trying to do, move some money
What we're
here?
trying to do is, move this money.
Trying to do? I think let's move on with this. And does it make sense to do this? Great. If it doesn't, okay. So,
Well,
the motion is to, please?
Reduce
lines 5220 to 5221 by 350,000. Decrease lines 5222 to 5229 by 150,000, and move the total sum of 500,000 to line 4600.
Okay, which is building improvements, correct? That's what it is?
Facility improvements.
Building improvements.
Mhm.
Okay,
Building improvement services.
all those in favor? Opposed? So, did you get that vote?
6-2.
6-2 abstentions?
Listen, somebody.
Are you opposed, or
It's abstention.
abstention? Abstention. 6-2-1. Thanks. Okay. Let's move on here. I don't know of anything in the CIP, but I believe this is, we want to go into, we're talking budgets, warrant articles. Dan, we had a brief conversation today about warrant articles.
Yeah, obviously, we still have time to draft our warrant articles. We have, it looks like, until January 29th, but the next, January 4th, not January 4th. What day are we meeting, Jeff, for the budget? To present the budget?
I believe it's a public hearing.
It's on your agenda.
Is it on there?
Your budget, public hearing, the
All right,
budget,
so
January
January
11th. January 11th.
So the budget committee is going to meet then, obviously, after, but their only recommendation to go to warrant was for the fiber. And the fiber was 218,464. I would rather we didn't go to warrant with fiber. With that, we either ask the budget committee to fit it in there, or it doesn't get fit in, but I'd rather it didn't go to warrant at all. There's grants that we can get for it. If it goes to warrant and fails, the grants are pretty much out of the
We
question.
won't be able to, right.
If it, if we get it, if it does go back into the budget in March, they can start trying to get those grants. If not, we can make, the board or the new board can make that decision in June or July if we have a surplus. So that's where I was going with that.
Well, we can make that on the, well, you don't do it in the public hearing, but you can clearly do it.
Do it after.
You-
They
yeah,
can.
Do it
yeah.
at the public. So guaranteed that this is probably a 1-year grant of money.
Yes.
We're either in this year, or there ain't no way there's gonna be, I can't believe there'd be money next
And
year.
we're ready to go.
Right.
And
the
we're
whole
ready to go.
plan's ready to
but
go.
I'm leery about putting it on the warrant.
So,
I'd rather wait and see if we have enough surplus to make it happen. If we can't get it back in the, I'd love to get
And
it back in the.
that's where I was going with it, you know?
why can't we get it in the budget?
Huh?
Why can't we get it?
We can try to
Well,
get it.
we
in
can
the
try,
budget.
is
We
what
can
I'm
try to
saying.
add it to the
I'll bring
budget.
it back to the budget committee on when we meet.
Well, remember, the budget committee, when they approved that budget, included the 250,000 that was part of that, was not in the initial operating budget. That was, they're, from my understanding, watching BudCom, they were pretty much trying to level fund, so they went back to last year's budget. But they actually didn't go back to last year's budget, they went back to last year's budget plus 250,000 for the capital reserve.
I honestly, okay. It's not in there right now.
Either way.
So it
It's-
could,
their
it could,
recommendation
it
is
could be
still.
put in there.
Right, but I still have to have a conversation with them, right?
Correct, yeah, but
That's
what I'm saying is
at.
it could still, it could be put in there.
Yes.
I
And
think we
still
should.
stay with the same number that they had.
I'm fine,
No,
but
oh,
I
I
have
see
to
what you're
have that
saying.
conversation with them
Not-
Yeah, either way.
and tell them that we are not going to put it to warrant. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
we have to do that, so that's
Makes sense.
where I'm going with it.
Makes sense.
Well, I personally would like to put it to warrant. I mean, it's the people's district. They should have a choice as to whether they want to make this kind of technology investment. I personally think it should go to warrant.
Okay. Yeah. Steph, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if the budget committee had made that recommendation, that, that, I think that that's reasonable.
So I guess I'm trying to get a flavor here, just, I think we should ask the budget committee to put it in the budget. So you think they should put in the budget? You think it should go to
No, I
warrant?
think it should go to warrant.
Greg?
I agree with Dan.
Put in the
Put
budget?
it in the budget?
Yep. So,
Do you want me to make a motion?
Yeah, let's make a motion and a vote.
Make a motion to not put it to warrant and recommend BudCom to put it in the budget or fit it in the budget. All right, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion
Did you
to,
get that? I can,
Is that the
It has to be a
technology plan?
positive-
what?
It has to be a positive motion.
the,
Fiber optics.
to put the fiber, which is 218,464, not to warrant.
Fiber optics, did you say?
Fiber optic connections. yeah.
Sure.
You can't really make a negative motion.
You might want to consider
recommend.
wording it to recommend that the budget committee add 216,000 to.
good
There you go.
fiber.
Right, I guess we do it that way, it's obvious that we're not
Yep.
gonna put it to warrant.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So to recommend the budget committee to put the fiber into the budget?
And I don't need those 218, 464.
No, you don't
No,
need that.
they know the number.
Motion's been made by Dan, seconded by Kelly.
Can I, a quick, what, did the lease purchase option not pan
We
out?
recommended against it.
The budget committee did, or
No,
we did?
the
We
school
did?
board. Yeah, we took a vote to recommend to BudCom to not lease and to just do the full amount. Absolutely.
Do we have a
You
second
You
on
don't remember that,
That was
Brian?
because of the
218,
grant.
I do recall
75?
But that was
Yes, I
because of the
remember
grant.
that. He's right.
It wouldn't be the,
That happened.
it might be connected to the grant as well,
was.
but,
Yeah.
Yeah, we had this discussion and
I
voted on
remember
it.
now.
when
I
it was
remember
equipment
now.
is, right, is our decision. how it's
Do we have a second on that motion?
Kelly,
Yeah.
second, Kelly
you.
seconded. You all set, thinking?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay, all those in favor?
2, 3, 4, 5, 7, thank you.
Opposed? Okay,
What's the vote, please?
7-2.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Yes. Other warrant articles? I don't know of any.
So we've got the draft here, the template that we, obviously we're putting everything else in here, correct?
Yeah, we actually have more time than I thought.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
But
No,
this
no,
is
no,
the
to go
language
through it,
we've
absolutely,
used.
but
for warrant articles.
we have until January 29th.
You should
Yeah.
consider the capital reserve fund at some point.
I agree.
How
Yep.
much money we'd put there. So we've been putting, what, 250?
250 a year, I think?
I'll make a motion to put that, set that capital reserve in that warrant article for 250.
Second.
That'll bring us over $1 million, half in here, I think.
A warrant
Around
article,
and around and around, how much money we've got in there.
warrant article for capital reserve, 250 made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 8-1.
Can you tell me who seconded that motion?
I did.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Kim did. I think that's it for now. I don't think we have any.
Okay.
We still have time, though, if we decide we want to
Yeah,
do
we have a
something
whole
else.
nother month.
Now, and Dr. Wilson, on this, I don't want to go into minutes, we haven't with.
Oh, I'm sorry?
I was going to go into minutes, but
Yeah.
I was going to, quite frankly, put off, because I'm seeing nothing on this policy thing that, unless you can advise that's pressing.
On policy that needs to be done? Is that what you're saying?
At 5 minutes of 11, yes, I'm not seeing.
I would defer to someone who's on policy committee, because I
Well,
don't
well, believe it or not, I'm a chair of it.
Who's the chair of
I'm a
policy?
chair of it, and I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay.
We can wait.
No, well,
Well, then let's let it slide.
That wasn't
We
on
did the
it.
roundup so we could
Conflict
get
on
the
We don't have it.
governor stuff, right, the last time, so we don't have.
Yeah, there's nothing pressing on
there's
this.
nothing.
Okay, so you want to table?
Yes.
Personnel.
So, so please, if we could go into the administrator's report.
Administrators report, yes, we do have some, I have some action tonight needed. We have received 2 donations. One is just a notification for you, an anonymous donation of $500 from a 1972 Timberlane graduate will be applied to high school students' lunch balance accounts. Principal Woodworth, the business administrator Dowd, and the food service director Fratiello will determine how to best apply those funds. No action needed on that. The second donation does need action. 6 coding kits from Peter Belo, valued at $500.
No.
I'm sorry?
We did that it's from my daughter, Anastasia Below.
Oh, I'm sorry. What I have here then is incorrect, so we want to
He's
say.
going to do it again.
Has this been done?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to do it again then?
No.
Oh, okay.
I already did mine.
All right,
They
all right.
have it. Mr.
Okay.
Flynn has them.
All right.
So Anastasia has donated
Yes.
to, same
We did that last
594.
Yeah.
And board action is required because it's over $500.
Motion to accept?
And I will be abstaining from this.
Second?
All those in favor?
Eight, one,
Abstentions?
0, 1. Thank you.
801, please.
Could I
Thank
just
you.
ask about the first donation to the outstanding food balance? How much was that for?
$500.
$500 from a 1972 Timberlane graduate.
Very nice of him.
Yeah,
Whoever he or she
appreciate-
was. Very nice.
And that's how it will be used.
Awesome.
And also, thank your daughter.
So could I ask what the outstanding balance is right now?
I don't have the information. I don't know.
More than 500.
Compliance and improvement monitoring. I just want to let you know, the special ed department has gone through the Department of Ed's compliance and monitoring auditing, which is a new process for the Department of Ed. And there was some training involved with staff, and I can say that because of the training that our staff went to, well over 75 staff were trained. And because of that model, the Department of Ed came back and said this was one of the best on-sites they had ever seen in this type of an arena. In
Nice.
terms of the staff taking feedback and using the feedback from the training to improve our systems and to improve some of the documents, which have to be meticulous for the Department of Ed. So again, I give kudos to the special ed department, Sue Rassico, Beth Rincon, for really working with the staff in making sure that all of our documents are done in a compliance way with the Department of Ed. So the review occurred in November, and we're waiting the report, but the verbal feedback was they were very pleased with the process.
Great.
And then the fourth, your proposed resolutions are in your packet from the Delegate Assembly, the School Boards Association. It will be held on January 20th in Concord, at which point the Assembly will vote on the resolutions to support or promote their legislative advocacy. So you have that in your packet.
I see that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any personnel?
Yes, I do have a personnel report. I have to find it. Do you have it? It's somewhere here.
Let's see.
Yes, I have it. This is the time of year where we do start hearing from staff about some decisions on retirement. So I would like to just say on behalf of the district, we have 3 of those retirements, actually 4. And Anna Lisiere from the Atkinson with technology teacher, has been with the district for 26 years. Teresa Kellaway, special needs student, teacher, 16 years with the district in Sandown. And Stan Stone, math teacher, 25 years with the district. Again, they've all announced their wish to retire, and so you have that information in your packet. As well, we have a support person who has been here with 22 years, and that's our high school accountant, Doreen Vasta. So we are going to miss all of them and the contributions that they've made to our district. You also have a resignation. Our OT, who's been with the district for 4 years, is going to be staying home with the children, or the child, I believe.
Move to accept with regrets and best wishes the retirements of the 4 staff.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Unanimous.
Move to accept the resignation of our occupational therapist at TLC with regrets.
Second.
Pick the second you want.
That's it.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thanks.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Committee reports.
Can we
Can we blast through the minutes?
That's
For
what-
sure.
that-
Like, I just want to make sure we get them done.
That's the goal.
Okay.
That's really the goal. So, does anyone have any committee reports? Great, thank you. Awesome. Now, let's see if we can, Dan says, blast for the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept November 2nd, regular board meeting minutes.
Second.
Good discussion. I have a change, a correction on page 4.
Say November 2nd.
November 2nd.
Page 4.
Yes, in the middle of the section, there's a long motion, starting with Mrs. Green, motion to amend, and so on and so forth. It says, the second sentence begins, only members of the committee may vote on committee matters, and at least 2 members of the committee from the school board and 2 members of the committee from the superintendent's leadership team must be present to hold a meeting. No, that last clause was not part of the motion. I went back and watched the video. It was not part of the motion, so it needs to be stricken.
Well, it was part of the discussion though, Donna, right?
It was, but not part of the motion. So, the clause beginning, and 2 members of the committee from the superintendent's leadership team must be present. No, it's just, there's no presence from the superintendent's leadership team, so it needs to be removed, and 2 members of the committee from the superintendent leadership team. That must be stricken, to be accurate to the actual
These are-
motion made at the meeting.
So
And if you'd
wasn't
like to
part
go
of her
back and
motion.
watch it,
Right.
It wasn't part of her motion.
No, it wasn't.
So let's just remove
That-
that piece of it, then,
Is it
and
the
the
whole
motion
sentence you're
failed.
removing?
No, when you go down to line 5 on that motion, put a period after board and delete the rest of the sentence, please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is that okay, Donna? Because it's
Yeah, yeah.
your voice there.
Okay,
But it should say, and at least 2 members of the committee from the school board must be present to hold a meeting. So, must be present to hold a meeting has to be included in that
I'm sorry,
sentence.
so.
Yeah, so just strike, and 2 members of the committee from the superintendent leadership team. Just take that out.
And leave the rest present to hold
Yes,
the meeting.
and leave the rest.
Okay.
And that would be a correct characterization of that motion. And that's the only change to these minutes.
Do I have a second on your motion?
I'd
Just
second.
making a correction.
Okay. okay, any other corrections on the November 2nd minutes? Motion to approve. Already made? Sorry,
Already
second?
did.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous.
Yeah, thank you.
Move on to the 16th.
Motion to approve the November 16th meeting minutes.
Second.
You would have thought that we would have read these things, you know, they've been in our packets for a couple of weeks.
I've read them 3 times.
Trying to remember the
Okay.
meeting.
Any comments, questions? We've had them. Okay, all those in favor for motions 16? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks. November 30th.
Motion approved.
Second.
Wow, wow, this is quite the attachment. Nice, very nice. Okay, comments there? Hearing none. All those in favor? Unanimous again.
Motion to approve the December 7th meeting minutes.
Second.
There is an error in here in the voting. Somewhere it says someone abstained, and it's not.
What page?
I don't know, I have to find it, but one of the,
Probably page 4. back and forth with that.
Oh, on page 4 of 7, is that what you're talking about? In the middle, the motion to amend passed 5-3-0, Mrs. Sherman, Mr. Ward, Mr. Bealow opposed, and Mr. Guy abstained.
There you go. Thank you.
Very good.
It should be 531.
What page?
Page
four
4
in the
of
middle.
7.
There was someone who's used to reading quickly
I got
and
it.
correcting many papers.
That's right.
Okay.
Just make that say 1.
All those in favor? Sue?
Oh, sorry.
Unanimous. Thanks.
Changes, thank you.
And it's blown through. Well gone through correspondence.
I'd like to bring up something under correspondence. There was a lot in there with respect to discrepancies in the voted budget. And I asked repeatedly to get an explanation for that. I watched the BudCom meeting where it was addressed very briefly. I don't find the explanation that is all encumbrances an explanation, because you don't adjust the voted budget to reflect encumbrances.
Okay, duly noted. After 11 o'clock, I'm not going to ask.
Well, but I've asked for 2 weeks to get
Okay.
an explanation of this, so, Mr. Boyle, why haven't you obtained this in writing from the administration?
I have not
I'm-
obtained it right.
Have you asked?
I have had a brief conversation with the business manager, but I have not obtained it writing, so I will get back to you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, thank you. I'd also like to suggest that if we cut a couple of programs right now, the Budget Committee still has a chance to remove it from the budget, and I'd like to propose that we remove the tripod survey from the proposed budget next year.
We have a meeting on January 4th, do we not?
Yes, you do.
Yes, we do.
I'd like to add that as a topic for discussion. The budgets
Correspondence.
is the tripod survey.
As well as the Chief 3000. Those are two
That's fine.
programs I would like
That's
to talk about removing.
Is it?
Okay?
So put it on an agenda item. You want somebody to refresh everyone's memory about what those programs and tools are? Or just?
That's,
And cost.
that's yep,
cost.
yep,
Wouldn't that
that's what we'll do.
Wouldn't that be?
Yep, I will get that. We'll make this an
Yes,
agenda
what-
item.
What it means to not do it.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd also like an agenda item in the upcoming meeting about the problems we seem to be having with Vimeo not getting up promptly. And it's to the point where our citizens are making right-to-know requests for recordings of our meetings, and I find that unacceptable. So I would like to have a discussion of that at our next meeting as well, please, Mr. Cole.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't
Again,
think our new equipment's in yet.
no, the new
So,
equipment's not here.
it's a-
They're still limping along, tape and
Okay.
baling wire. You're asking people that don't normally operate the equipment to be operating it. That particular night you're in reference to, there was an event going on at the PAC, a student event that needed to be taken care of. There's all kinds of reasons why. There's no conspiracy, I don't believe. I don't believe there's any conspiracy.
There isn't.
I'm not saying there's a conspiracy, I'm saying it's
And
an
we're under no
unacceptable level of
obligation.
service to our taxpayers.
We are not under an obligation to do that. We have done that as a lovely thing to do,
Yeah,
but
we're
it's
good.
not
We're
part of
not
the
gonna,
legal.
we're not gonna sit here, we've done this a few months before, we're not having a meeting at 11 o'clock. So I think we've,
Well, she brought it up.
bring it up, so that's great. Okay. Thank you very much for showing up here tonight. I hope everybody has a,
Vendor
Vendor
payroll's gonna
payroll,
win.
vendor
Sorry?
payroll.
Red
I
flag.
think everyone signed it.
Sue,
I think that's,
Motion to adjourn?
motion, but, everyone have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And I guess a lot of you people are gonna, be out shoveling tomorrow, so.